welcome once again to Cinemaholics. I'm Jon and Will. I am the box office columnist for Adam Tickets, head writer of Cinemaholics.com, and I occasionally write books. He is a pop culture writer for Cinema Blend, and he also reviews films for Cinemaholics.com. As always, it is Will Ashton.
Hi, Jon.
You can find more episodes of Cinemaholics, including our full archive of episodes and written content over on Cinemaholics.com. Send us an email if you'd like to write into the show at cinemaholicspodcast@gmail.com. And, you know, sometimes people just want to support us financially, which is amazing because we need it. So check out our Patreon for exclusive perks and details and how you can support us that way. Go to patreon.com/cinemaholics. I know you need it, Will, because you're working on going to the New York Film Festival, I hope.
Yeah, maybe. Well, fingers crossed on that front, but we'll see.
And if you would like to support us another way, you can always leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts /iTunes or wherever you love podcasts. That is always a huge help. We have an interesting episode this week because nothing big is coming out in theaters. The exception of one film that's kind of on my radar, but I've already seen it. And we thought, okay, this is a great week to do our fall movie preview for 2019. The fall is a very interesting season because the movies that come out in this time are always very interesting. They're always a little hard to predict, like what's going to catch fire with audiences and what's not. So we're going to use this episode as an opportunity to sort of preview some films that we're paying close attention to. It's going to be a lot different from the way that we've done previous seasonal previews. It's not going to be like our summer preview. For example, it's just Will and myself. So we're just going to be going into a little bit more detail with some of these films. We're going to start this episode with some recap. Will, I think it's okay to maybe take a step back and look at the past a little bit. What do you say?
Sure, why not?
All right. Well, I want to start with what are the best films of the year so far in terms of box office? What are the films that have made the most money? And obviously, a lot of you listening are like, well, I don't care. I didn't make this money. Why should I care that Disney made all the money this year? Well, it is interesting because it influences a lot of the films that are going to be made in the future, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and it also influences what we'll be talking about in future episodes, I have to presume.
Yeah. It's a circle of life, and speaking of...
Yeah.
Well, actually, The Lion King is not the highest grossing film of all time. As you can imagine, the highest grossing film of 2019 so far is a spring movie that made most of its money in the summer, and that's Avengers Endgame. Okay. So this film is basically done. It finished its extremely long run. It was like prolonged at theaters in order to reach the high milestone of the highest grossing film of all time, surpassing Avatar. Worldwide, it made $2.79 billion. That is just a truly astounding number. This film made $2 billion more than four of the top 10 films of the year so far. So let that sink in. $796 million. That's more than 4 out of the top 10.
I thought you said Thor?
Thor, yes. So it did make more than Thor.
Yeah, I was like, it made more money than Thor. It's like, yeah, I figured.
Number 2 on the list is The Lion King, another Disney film. This is the highest grossing animated film of all time, officially, $1.5 billion. Between Avengers and The Lion King, I'm definitely glad Endgame is the summer winner, Will, because Lion King still infuriates me the more I think about it.
Me too, yeah. It crawls my skin in many ways.
Captain Marvel is number 3 at $1.12 billion. Spider-Man: Far From Home is at $1.11 billion. Aladdin is at $1.04 billion. Toy Story 4 is at $1.03 billion. And that's all the Disney/Disney adjacent those are all those properties, because the only one of those films that isn't Disney proper is Spider-Man: Far From Home, which is technically Sony, but it is of course a Disney kind of movie, I think is fair to say.
Yeah.
And the other staggering thing is those are all billion-dollar movies.
Yeah. And people were mad that Sony was like, no, you're not taking more of our money.
Right. This is Spider-Man: Far From Home is the highest grossing film Sony has ever had. So for obvious reasons, they want to hold on to Spider-Man for all it's worth, which we are going to see pretty shortly in future episodes of this show. So that's a lot of films. So 2 live action remakes, 2 Marvel films. These are all summer movies except for Captain Marvel, we should say. The rest of this list, at number 7, we have The Wandering Earth, a Chinese film that made 699.7 million worldwide, mostly in China. Niza, which is a film, also Chinese film, which just came out recently and has just been killing the box office. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for this yet. This movie has gotten so much attention. Even people I know, it like out in everyday life are talking about this film. And I'm very curious to see it at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there a domestic U.S. release date for that?
I think it's out, or it's going to come out in theaters pretty soon. Yeah. I don't know exactly when, and didn't make our fall preview, so I'm glad we're mentioning it now. And then at number 9, we have Hobbs and Shaw. And at number 10, we have How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. Kind of interesting when you look back on the summer, like Godzilla King of the Monsters was in the top 10 for a while, not on there anymore. And there are no other animated films, like Lego Movie 2 isn't on this list. Secret Life of Pets 2 didn't make the top 10. Detective Pikachu fell off. So like all of these other films that, they did okay. John Wick Chapter 3 was kind of a sleeper hit, but none of them cracked the top 10 for the highest grossing films of the entire year, I should say, so not just the summer. What do you make of this list of films, Will? Like, it just the Disney dominance, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at that top 5, that's pretty depressing, just in terms of its monopoly at the box office and how they're going to have more control and feel more validated to make more remakes and sequels and different things that some of them might be good, but I don't know. I'm totally done with these remakes, and I can't imagine a lot of them are going to be much better, though. I'm kind of blanking on what the other ones are as far as what's coming up next, but isn't
so we have our preview
next?
For because one of them is next. It's a sequel to a live action remake, but yeah, Mulan, right. Little Mermaid, Cruella, those are the first that come to mind. Lady and the Tramp will be on Disney Plus exclusively. Speaking of Disney Plus, Will, that's going to be the how you enjoy the rest of your Disney content, right?
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Right, it's the only place where you're going to be able to get Alita Battle Angel, since that is a Fox/Disney property.
Oh yeah, that is going to be on there, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. It could be.
So is Garfield the movie.
Garfield the movie. I guess that is Fox, isn't it? So lots of stuff there.
Oh, can I promote that my new episode is here real quick?
Let him have it.
Yeah, just real quick, not to interrupt your spiel, but the new episode of Ain't Ogre to Its Ogre is now live, and we have a very special guest, Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield. How do you think we got him? Listen to the episode to find out. All right, that's it.
Oh boy, I'm about to cry false advertising, but I'm going to let it slide.
It's not false advertising. We got Jim Davis.
You got Jim Davis.
It's in the title.
It's in the title, yeah. So big year for 2019. This is the last, as of this summer, we have no other Marvel Cinematic Universe films coming out, so if we look at, though, how much this film franchise of movies has made since Iron Man came out in 2008, $18 billion so far, right? And I'm not even sure. Actually, no, it's not 21 billion. That's 18 billion as of Captain Marvel. Sorry, it's 21 billion as of Avengers Endgame. So unbelievable. Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, when Iron Man came out in 2008, did you see this coming, Will? That $21 billion later, we would be at this point.
Yeah, I can't say I was ever thinking it would be that big. I also didn't think it would be a Disney property either.
Yeah.
Because if we remember, it was under Paramount initially. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they're kicking themselves now as far as the success of these films. But in any case, yeah, it's pretty amazing what 10 years can do.
That is for sure. Another milestone I do want to point out, because I mentioned Detective Pikachu. That film.
Yeah.
It didn't do like amazing compared to some of the films on this list, but hey, it actually did break some records, and it broke some glass ceilings, I guess, when it comes to films based on video games. So Detective Pikachu, yeah, I mean, critics liked the film fine. Maybe it is the first to break that curse, right? It's a film that cost $150 million to make. Worldwide, it made $431.6 million. That's a hit. That's a hit movie right there.
Yeah.
So not enough to crack the top 10 by far, but definitely enough to warrant a sequel for sure, and maybe help stave off what has been otherwise kind of a rough year for Warner Brothers. Maybe not a rough year, but kind of like a hit or miss year for them. They're not anywhere on the top 10, even though Shazam has already come out. That was like their big superhero movie of the year. They don't have any other DC movies coming out this year. Aquaman was a huge hit for them last year, for sure, but Annabelle Comes Home is another one that comes to mind. That's a film that just didn't do super well. But we should say one of our fall preview movies is a Warner Brothers film, and I have a feeling it could be the big film of the entire fall. So we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, well, we've talked about the best of the box office. Let's quickly look at what are the highest rated films so far this year. I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes for this. I want to know, can you guess what is the one film that has scored 100% on Rotten Tomatoes? There's only one film to come out in 2019 to hit 100%. Do you know what it is?
Basically how many reviews?
It could be any amount. So I would say...
Well, how many for this one?
For this one, I'd have to look it up, but I believe it's like a good amount. And I can give you a hint, actually, because this is...
Well, I was going to say... Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
I have it here. 83.
Okay. So it's not a blockbuster.
Not a blockbuster.
I was going to say, because I think Toy Story 4 was... It's not my pick, but I was going to say that was like in the pretty close to it, because it got like 98 or something, I think.
Yeah, for a while. But I don't even think it's no longer in the top 10, actually, of Rotten Tomatoes as of this year. Surprised, believe it or not.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to guess that it was none other than Ma.
Boy. I'm going to have to disappoint you.
Yeah.
Will Ashton, I don't think I'm going to be able to make you happy on that one. A hint. This film is one that I've actually, one of my reviews contributed to the score. Does that help at all, or do I just need to give you the answer?
Well, it's not Last Black Man in San Francisco, right?
It is not.
Okay. That one got pretty high though, right? That's in like 95-ish, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Lower than that? Okay.
I don't have it right in front of me, so I don't want to.
Sure.
I don't want to miss.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, go ahead. Tell me. I don't want to keep the listeners in suspense.
All right, it is Knock Down the House, the Netflix documentary about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Dem primary. There is one other film. I think I actually misspoke. There is one other film that got 100%. It's a film I've never heard of called The Chambermaid, and I totally missed it because it's a foreign film. So I apologize, but this was out of 53 reviews, and yeah, don't know if that one is worth seeking out. So
well, apparently it is.
Yeah, based on those reviews for sure.
Yeah.
There's also The Farewell at 99%. One of my favorite movies of the year. Apollo 11 also is at 99%.
Well, I need to finish that.
Not a film I love. This is Todd Douglas Miller's film, the documentary about it. Just uses archival footage, but I know a lot of people are huge fans. It didn't work for me as well.
I was digging what I saw. I still need to finish it, but what I saw was like, holy moly, how'd they get this footage?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it in IMAX, and for some reason, it just didn't wow me. And there must be something wrong with me, of course.
Maybe.
There's also Ashes the Purest White, which has 99%. Which
wanted to see that.
That has been on my list for so long. I really want to see it. I'm not sure if it's available yet on streaming or anything like that. Do you know?
No, it's probably on VOD though, I think. Maybe not, if not now, pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, one that is on VOD at the moment is Amazing Grace. That's another one of my favorites of the year. 99%.
Still need to see that.
Yeah, 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's the Aretha Franklin documentary capturing one of her amazing performances, one of her most amazing performances in 1972. There's also One Child Nation, which is actually playing in the Bay Area. I really want to catch this because I missed it at Sundance, but that's also 99% film. And this is the one that's about China's one-child policy, which is when they make it illegal for couples to have more than one child in order to curb population. So I've heard that one is a chilling but very essential documentary. That's all the 99% films. The 98% ones include Three Faces, which I have not seen, or Honeyland, haven't seen that. Too Late to Die Young. Yeah, these are all festival films for the most part. Then we get to Toy Story 4, which is out of the top 10, but it's a 97% film. And Booksmart is another film at 97%.
Oh, that went down then.
Yeah.
Because that was like 99 for a little bit.
It was for quite a while. Yeah. Other films that are on this list that I really want to see that are pretty high up, like Hail Satan. Still haven't had a chance to see that documentary.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I don't think I've talked about that on the podcast, but yeah, I saw that and enjoyed it.
Yeah, 96. And Little Woods is at 96. Another film that I definitely liked a lot. I hope people check out more of it. That actually hit rent streaming pretty recently.
Yeah, you saw that.
I'm planning to see American Factory this week. That's at 96%. Okay. There's also Tigers Are Not Afraid, which I've been told is like, go see this movie, drop everything.
Yeah.
Peanut Butter Falcon. That's playing in my area too, Will. And I haven't had a chance to see it. I want to make you happy.
It's good. Yeah, it's a good film. I'd recommend it.
Last film we'll mention here. Avengers Endgame, it's in the top 25 highest rated films of the year, 94% Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
Can you believe it? That's just a quick snapshot. Obviously, there are plenty of other films. I was surprised like Us and Wild Rose were a little farther down. Last Black Man in San Francisco as well. Those are all in like the 93% range. But
okay.
Yeah, before we just go on this rabbit hole, because literally we could. A lot of great movies have come out this year, Will, and I'm kind of sick of hearing this talking point coming out that like, oh, what a bad year for movies. I think relative to most years, I'm looking at my yearly rankings of 2019, and there are some fantastic films on my list. I guess that's just not the same for everybody else. Maybe I just like these films more than other people. I don't know.
Well, I will say that I think it's been kind of hit or miss for me. Just like it seems like every week there's like one movie that's outstanding, and then there's like a blockbuster that's just terrible, and it just feels like a kind of roller coaster of quality for me. I don't know. I think haven't seen a lot of films that you. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of films that you have currently in your top 10. There are a lot of films I still want to see that piqued my interest, but yeah, it's been a pretty up and down year for many films in many different respects.
I think that's 100% true for blockbusters in every way. I mean, it makes sense that like Toy Story 4 and Avengers Endgame are the only blockbusters to have like 90% or higher on Rotten Tomatoes, it looks like, or at least like in the high end of that range. So, all right, well, those are the best rated films of the year so far. Let's before we get into our seasonal preview, just one last thing we want to look at: our most popular episodes of Cinemaholics this summer. So I thought this would be pretty fun.
Us.
So out of all of the Cinemaholics crew finally gets recognized for our hard work, right? So we've come out with an episode or two every week since April when we did Avengers Endgame. Here are our most popular episodes of the summer. You're already aware of them, Will, so I'm not going to tease the listeners. But
yeah, I won't give away.
At the bottom of the list, Spider-Man Far From Home. This is an episode that did really well. A lot of people tuned into this one. I know we had Matt Serafini as our guest. He's kind of our Spidey expert.
Yeah,
I loved that episode. I loved our whole conversation on that movie. That was one of the few spoiler sections that we got to do, like spoiler discussions.
Yeah.
That was a good one. And then the next one on the list, Will, I'm sad, this is an episode you were not on. The Rocket Man / Godzilla / Ma / Last Black Man in San Francisco episode. This is the one that I did live in studio with Sam Noland, who came all the way here from the internet, Colorado. And he and I just had a one-on-one conversation. First time since Maverick Hines was on the podcast that we had something like that. I have a very, very emotional connection to this episode. I listen to it often. Will, did you ever get a chance to listen to it yourself?
No, I haven't.
Okay, that's the answer I was expecting. But I'm not on it, so why should I listen to it?
Fair enough, yes.
Clearly, the listeners were into it as well. I honestly, Will, I highly recommend you seek it out at some point. It was a good conversation, and there's a great opening joke at Sam's expense, but at your goodness. I don't know how to say that, like not at your expense, but it's like it's a plus for you, a downside for Sam, how that episode opens. So you'll probably appreciate that. Yeah, I hope I piqued your interest there. Next on the list, Lion King. This was a surprise. I thought the Lion King would probably be our second, maybe first of all of these episodes, but yeah, our Lion King episode, that was an interesting one. I think especially because
I like that.
we use that episode to not just talk about Lion King, but the Cats trailer was when that's when we talked about Cats. Is when we talked about Comic-Con. That was a good episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't like the movie at all, but I definitely enjoyed our conversation about that film and obviously talking about Cats. The trailer conversation for that is probably one of my favorite conversations we've had on the podcast, not just this summer, but in its entirety.
Oh boy, yeah, I have to agree with you there. Toy Story 4 is our next highest, and which is interesting. You know, our Incredibles 2 episode last year did pretty well, but our most popular episode ever, if you're just looking at audio feeds, not YouTube videos, is far and away Coco, the 2017 Pixar film. Incredibles 2 did well. That's another one. Our Cars 3 episode did okay, but Toy Story 4 is definitely much higher on the list than some other Pixar films we've done. A little bit more similar to Coco, so that's awesome to see. And that was another really great episode. I remember getting a few really like specific messages from people who had maybe listened to that episode. It was the first episode of Cinemaholics they had ever listened to, and it sort of got them into the show. Like Charlie Ridgely was on that episode, so that was a blast.
Yep.
He was so great to talk to about that film. And yeah, I just remember just being really happy when we recorded that one.
That was fun.
All right, and then our second most popular film episode, or our second most popular episode was Avengers Endgame, which I'm shocked. I thought Avengers Endgame would be our big episode of the summer, and because Avengers Infinity War is, I believe, our third biggest episode ever on Cinemaholics. Avengers Infinity War from last year. Avengers Endgame definitely did super well for us. I mean, lots of people listened to it, but it was only number 2, and that was a great episode. We had Alicia Grasso on that. We had Matt Donato. That was a blast to edit. I remember, like, we got to do all kinds of cool things with the music, and yours and mine conversation about the film was obviously a ton of fun. And yeah, I don't know if you ever got a chance to listen to that episode over again, but that's definitely one that I like to revisit.
No, I haven't. I'll have to check that one out.
We're making it sound like you don't listen to the show, but I know you do. So I'm just putting you on the spot on like the wrong ones, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, so sorry. Well, here's one I know that both you and I have revisited more than once, at least for me. Our big episode of the summer, and this is actually on its way to becoming it's already in our top 5 episodes of all time for this podcast, and it's on its way to climbing up even higher. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino film. In that episode, we talked about, I think, just that film with Sam Nolan. That was a very contentious episode. We had a lot of really fiery debate. We had some spoilers.
A little bit.
That was a great episode.
It was a great episode.
Are you surprised, though, to see that it is like one of our all-timers?
Yes and no. No, in the sense that I think it's a great conversation. I think it's a film that has obviously created a wealth of opinions, and I don't think anyone walks out of the film feeling the exact same way as someone else does. And clearly, I think our episode represents that, and I think that what's the word I'm looking for? That variety of opinions that is in that episode, I think, is a good reflection of how I think a lot of people in the film Twitter community had felt like they weren't exactly sure if they were super high on it or if they found themselves a little disappointed. But I am surprised in the sense that, like, yeah, compared to Lion King and Endgame and Toy Story 4, especially, I think those are the 3 I think I was expecting to be 1, 2, and 3, just above the Tarantino film. But I can see why it got picked, and I'm glad that it got picked because, like you said, I think it's a very good episode for us. So I'm glad people are enjoying it and checking it out.
I think so too. Now that'll do it for our recap of 2019 thus far. Hope that has been enlightening or interesting to listen to. But with that, let's get into our fall preview of 2019. For the summer preview, there were a lot of films that you and I had high hopes for, but there are also some films that made that list that got pushed to the fall, which might get brought up again. So the 3 most anticipated movies that I had for the summer were Last Black Man in San Francisco, which is my favorite film of the year so far, so that turned out well. Toy Story 4, which I ended up really liking a lot. And Yesterday, which I ended up liking, not loving. You looked at Brightburn, which I know you were not a big fan of.
I thought it was alright. Yeah, I had mixed feelings on it, but I was ultimately more positive than negative.
Right. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So there you go. And then The Nightingale, which you haven't had a chance to see yet.
Only because it hasn't been playing in my area. But
right.
I found out that it's playing not only in my area, but the theater where I work starting Friday. So I'm excited, but also for many reasons also pretty nervous to check that one out, given what I've heard about the subject matter. So I don't know when I'll see it, but I'm planning to see it when I can as soon as possible.
There's also Ad Astra, which that's one of those films, like Sam picked that one. Among 2 others.
We were all like, that's not coming out.
Right. Yeah,
and
we all had a
like,
feeling. Yeah. And of course, Julia Tatey, she picked one of her films was Midsummer, which another one of my favorite films of the year so far. Glad to see that one turned out well.
Yeah, me too.
I gotta take a look at our dark horses. These were the films that we were like, this looks kind of bad, but maybe it'll surprise us. I'm looking at this. Men in Black International was one that I had hopes for. I feel bad about that call. You picked New Mutants, which got pushed all the way to next year. There's
truly a dark horse. When is that coming out?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm glad you picked it in general then. Sam looked at Dark Phoenix, He also looked at Angel Has Fallen. Both he and Julia also had hopes for Tolkien, which I heard was just not good in any sense.
I forgot about that one.
You also picked Where Do You Go, Bernadette, which Julia
Yeah.
also picked, and you're seeing that one later this week, I believe.
Hopefully, yeah. I'm trying to find a time to see that as well. Haven't had a chance to, even though I might be in the film. I don't want to give any people the wrong impression in case my shot got cut, but I may or may not be in the movie. But among many reasons, of course. Among many reasons, I'm excited to see it. Primarily, I think for Cate Blanchett's performance, but also because it's a new Linklater movie, and I want the best for him, even though I've heard it's a weaker entry for him. But we'll see. Whenever I see it, though, I'll talk about it on the podcast.
Honestly, the only dark horse that I'm looking at that any of us picked that turned out like the best is Toy Story 4. You picked that, which I contend, like, that didn't look bad. Come on. But whatever. You ended up liking it. I ended up really liking it.
Yeah.
I think the true dark horse on this list, I picked Aladdin and Good Boys as well. And Good Boys, I think we both were kind of getting sick of that trailer. And I think it surprised us a little bit. Like, I don't think it wowed a lot of people, but that was okay. And then Aladdin, that definitely surprised financially, but that almost was surprising in like how not terrible it was, but it was still pretty mediocre, I guess.
Yeah, I was not a fan of that film. I would prefer it over The Lion King, but I also just found myself really bored by the whole experience of that. And I think it has more virtues than The Lion King, like I said, but in the end, I also found it pretty depressing that became a huge hit.
Well, let's look forward to the fall season. So we're looking at the fall season starting next week, which is the week of September 6th. And then we're taking it all the way to Thanksgiving weekend. We vary a little bit on this from year to year, to be clear. Sometimes we go a little bit further into December. But I don't know. Well, I was kind of looking at the schedule, and it just felt a little bit more right to end it at November.
I mean, not to talk a little bit too much about what goes on behind the scenes, but it's almost always the weekend where, like, it doesn't seem like anything exciting is coming out this weekend. What, you want to do a fall preview? And it's like, yeah, we should do a fall preview.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's kind of how we settled on that. Although the summer one was definitely a clear, like, okay, Avengers Endgame is coming out next week. We got to do this now.
Right.
Because just Hollywood doesn't know seasons or doesn't understand the seasons, I don't think, right?
Yeah, I mean, every season at this point, besides the cold ones, are summer. So anytime the sun comes out, it's like, did the summer movie season start? We say it does, and there you go.
Now, this is the first time on a movie preview episode where we're not actually going to start with what our most anticipated films are. We're actually going to start with what we think are going to be the most successful films of the fall. Now, I put down 3 films, and Will, I just want to know, do you agree or disagree? Because you didn't put any films down for this, because I think you probably share the same opinion as me. You did? Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I can't spell them out, because we'll have to put an explicit rating, but I put some films down.
All right, well, I honestly think that the biggest film of the fall could very well be It Chapter 2. This is the film I was alluding to earlier. It comes out next weekend on September 6th. This is the Warner Brothers film, the sequel to what was really a surprise hit for a lot of people in 2017, a film that we reviewed, and that was the first It. Now, Will Ashton, do you remember how much the first It made box office-wise?
Oh, worldwide or domestic?
Worldwide.
Worldwide, I'm going to say, I don't think it crossed $1 billion.
No.
But it got pretty close, I feel like. It probably got like 800, 850.
That's close. 700.4.
700.
Yeah.
Okay, I was up shooting, but yeah, I knew it was pretty high.
I honestly think this one is probably going to make more, you think? It has more recognizable actors. We have Bill Hader, James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain in this. The first one was well received, great reviews. People really liked it. I think people are excited about this film. It's been kind of a weak summer for counter programming, right? So for the films that aren't Disney films, just people have been a little bit sleepy on the box office. I'm wondering if this is the film that's going to wake people up a bit. That's going to get them out of the house. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it does feel like an event film in a way that a lot of films in August just didn't. And it kind of felt like a lot of the last couple weeks were biding their time before it, in a way that, like, I think the reason why we got Ready or Not and Scary Stories to Tell in Dark before the fall season is just because they're like, we're not getting in its way. Like, we're just going to let that do its own thing and try to make some money before it comes out. So, it definitely is like the biggest release post July, I feel.
Now, for October films, there are actually 2 or 3 that I could see being pretty big hits. Probably not hits on the same level as It Chapter 2 or maybe these other films. But I think we have to go all the way to November to start looking at films that really, I think, have a lot of potential to be the biggest of the fall. Maybe this is a step too far, but November 8th is the release of Doctor Sleep. That is the sequel to The Shining. And I mean, in the same vein of It, a Stephen King property, I don't know, Will. Am I going crazy? Do you think it's a little bit too far to say that this film starring Ewan McGregor, this sequel to a classic film that I don't even actually like that much. I'm not the biggest Shining fan, but I recognize that Shining is a film touchstone for people, especially in the horror genre. Do you think Doctor Sleep has the potential to do big money at the box office?
Well, when I was thinking about it first, I was like, I don't know. I mean, it seems like, because, it's another R-rated horror film that's not it. And it's like, is that going to really, break the bank? But at the same time, when I thought about it a little more, especially compared to what else we're getting this winter or this fall, it seemed like, like if they sell it as like the official sequel to it, to Shining, which it's not really in the sense that like, it's obviously not going to be, Stanley Kubrick or Jack Nicholson or Shelley Duvall. But it does feel like a continuation of that story in the same way that It Chapter 2 is. And even though the book Doctor Sleep isn't nearly as well regarded as The Shining, it does feel like if they really harken on that cinematic influence. And I will say, entirely disputing what you said, I think The Shining is one of the best horror movies ever made. I could see this one making a lot of money if it's promoted well, which I will say, even though Warner Brothers does not usually have all their ducks in order when it comes to the quality of their films, they usually tend to market them pretty well. So if they really, hone on the marketing of this film quite well, I could see it being a huge hit.
That's kind of where I'm at too. But that said, November 22nd, there's going to be a film that will possibly overshadow everything else we've talked about or are going to talk about. And that's Frozen 2. Now, last week, I threw a little bit of shade at Frozen 2, not in the sense that I think it's going to be bad. I don't. It's not that I think that it's going to be a disaster box office wise. I'm just very skeptical about how much money this is actually going to make. Is it actually going to be one of the highest grossing films of the year, which a lot of people are expecting? I think people are expecting this film to do as well, if not better, than the first Frozen 6 years ago. And I'm just not sure. We talked about this last week. I just wonder if animated sequels are just something people aren't as into anymore. And I don't know. Because this is Walt Disney Animation, we shouldn't compare it one-to-one with other Disney Animation films. But the big test is that, like, Ralph Breaks the Internet. Was that really a film? If we look at the box office for that compared to the first Wreck-It Ralph, did it really take people by storm? Is it apples to oranges, though? I don't know, because I'm looking at How to Train Your Dragon 3, looking at Lego Movie 2, and I'm just seeing, like, people just don't seem to care, right?
Yeah, it's a little hard to judge this early on. I think it'll be a little easier in September, October. Ironically, as the seasons get colder, the buzz for this one might get a little warmer. But yeah, based on what we're seeing right now, it doesn't seem like the buzz is there as much as I think any movie fan or maybe even Disney was anticipating. But it is possible that they are kind of biding their time, waiting for the release date to get a little closer, and there's a little more separation between what they had in the summer and now, or what's going to be now in the fall. So I don't know. I mean, like you were saying earlier, like if it's true that like or family audiences were like, we're only going to see a set number of films this summer and they're going to go see The Lion King and Toy Story and Avengers, maybe. I could see in the fall being like, we're going to see two films as a family. We're going to see Star Wars and we're going to see Frozen 2. And especially considering that it seems like, from what I can gather, it doesn't seem like there's like that many family films coming out in September or October. At least not too high profile of family films. So
right. There's
there will be kind of
there's one we will talk about, but yeah, just like one or two.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. But it seems like this is going to be, it's going to be like a little while since families have probably been to the theaters or something that's really kind of seemed like a family film in the sense that like everyone in the family would have some interest in seeing it. So yeah, I mean, but to your point, there is the possibility that, people are really maybe just burnt out by Frozen, no pun intended. Maybe, like the huge, humongous popularity of that first film just kind of, made everyone tired of that first movie and let it go and all that. And I don't know if that's going to be true for younger audiences, because obviously we just don't really, I think, keep in track with what their interest is movie wise. But I mean, it does seem like compared to what you would have expected for a Frozen 2, that the buzz isn't quite there yet. But I can see that changing come November.
I agree, yeah. So the first Frozen is the second highest grossing animated film of all time, $1.27 billion. And I'm looking at the numbers, and I did misspoke. Ralph Breaks the Internet did make slightly more than Wreck-It Ralph. It was like 500 something million compared to like 470 million for Wreck-It Ralph. So I want to be clear about that. But with Frozen, I don't know. I just don't see Frozen 2 making $1.2 billion or more, because I think the difference between that film and something like Finding Dory made over $1 billion. Incredibles 2 is the third highest grossing animated film of all time at like $1.24 billion. But I think the difference is those films had a decade of anticipation to what you're saying.
Right.
And Frozen 2 just doesn't have that. It's been 6 years. It feels like Frozen, like the hype for that film lasted too long almost, because that film, people were still talking about it in like 2015. And like that song was still like in the consciousness until like 2015. So it's really only been like maybe 4 years. So
right. This
will be a hit, but I'm thinking probably realistically, grain of salt, maybe $600 to $800 million. So a little more than half that number. What do you think?
Yeah, it's weird. Like, to your point, that it's kind of like it's not like close enough to its release that it's going to be achieving the same success financially probably, but it's also not getting that nostalgic audience that we had for Incredibles 2 and Finding Dory, and then like probably like Space Jam 2 next year maybe. But I know it's not a Disney film, but I'm trying to think of another example, and that was the first one that came to mind. But yeah, I don't know. It's a season like kind of in between. Like it's not nostalgic yet. It's not really fresh either. So it's somewhere in between, and I could see that being detrimental to it. But I don't know. I could also see this one being a humongous hit. Maybe not on par, like you said, to the first Frozen, but certainly in a way that we're not quite anticipating so far.
That's probably the most likely scenario. We'll have to wait and see until November 22nd. So that's a little farther down. We have plenty of other films to talk about.
Right?
Yeah. I think that's Thanksgiving weekend, if not a week after. Because I think
that's Moana's weekend.
That's the what weekend?
The Moana weekend? Didn't Moana come out?
Yeah.
Moana.
Yeah. So did The Good Dinosaur. So a lot of animated films come out in Thanksgiving. It's kind of a prime time sort of thing. But there are definitely some other films I think the 27th is like probably the weekend of Thanksgiving, and I think that the 22nd has those films coming out that Wednesday, probably. I'd have to look at that, because I'd have to look at calendar. But regardless,
yeah, I don't know.
You have some films, Will, that you wanted to share with us. What are the most successful movies of the fall going to be?
Yeah, I can't say what I really wanted to rate, but yeah, I don't know. I was thinking it over, and I honestly don't think there's any real divergence from what you're saying. I feel like it's more likely than not that these films are going to be the big hits of the summer or the fall. But the only one that might stand a chance of really breaking out in a big way, I'd say, is maybe Maleficent 2, more Maleficent than ever. I don't know if the buzz is really there for this one. I don't know if people were that big of fans of the first Maleficent. I remember it getting kind of mixed reviews. But it definitely seems like Disney is hoping that this film is going to be big for them, in the sense that they want to make more live-action remake sequels to films like Aladdin and maybe Lion King, and maybe Jungle Book at some point. So, yeah, I don't know. I could see that maybe doing pretty well, but otherwise, it's hard to say. Like, I don't know if Charlie's Angels is going to do that well. It's kind of a question mark. Terminator is also a question mark.
Let's put a pin on some of those films, because we're going to discuss all of them in a little bit more detail. But yeah, we can maybe revisit this conversation of like what will actually be successful. Let's move on though into our actual like most anticipated. So these films can be, who cares what audiences decide to go check out. Let's talk about the films that are coming out soon. I think the soonest one either of us picked comes out October 4th. This is a film that you picked. This is a film that I actually was considering for a different category we're going to talk about. One that I'm a little bit... this is a film that I'm definitely curious about for sure. It's called Lucy in the Sky. Why are you anticipating this one so much?
Well, this one's a film that is the feature directorial debut of Noah Hawley, who is an author and a showrunner, probably best known for being behind the FX TV shows of Fargo and Legion. I still need to catch up on Legion, but I've really enjoyed what I've seen, and obviously I've talked a lot on the show about how much I love the television version of Fargo. Just based on what I've seen, because he directs a number of episodes for Fargo as well. He does really seem to have a vision. It's very cinematic, and I get the sense from the trailer that he's really going to incorporate that vision to his first film. And personally, I feel like Natalie Portman has been on a big role recently. Some of her best work has been the past couple years. For instance, I think Jackie and much to your detriment, I'd say Vox Lux are some of her best performances. And
Annihilation, Will, if you're going to say Vox Lux.
And Annihilation, yeah. Oh, that's true. I was trying to think what the other ones were.
I'm just saying, if you're going to bring up Vox Lux and you're going to bring up that can of worms, you might as well make me a little bit happy.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's valid too, because I thought she was really good in Annihilation as well. I feel like there's another film I'm forgetting, but maybe I'm not. But in any case, it's a pretty interesting film. I'm really digging the trailer every time I see it in theaters. It's one of the trailers that I have seen quite a few times, but I don't get sick of it just because I just love how cinematic it looks. I love the way that the what do you call that? The like letterbox kind of pulls out, and I just am really enjoying the look and the feel of that movie, and I'm hoping it's going to be worthwhile because we don't really know, and it's a big kind of question mark as far as whether or not Noah Hawley will be able to bring his sense of control that he brings to his shows to a pretty self-contained 2-hour movie. But it's of the ones that are coming out this fall, it's certainly one of the ones that intrigues me the most. I'm really hoping it stands out as one of the finer films we'll get in the fall.
Yeah, but Will, there is one other film. It hasn't come out yet, but let's not forget, it's going to be in Thor: Love and Thunder in 2021. Sure. So Lady Thor is going to be it's going to be hitting Lady Portman. Wait, the Mighty Portman. There's a pun in there somewhere. But yeah, that's Lucy in the Sky.
Okay.
Yeah, this one is going to have its world premiere at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, on September 11th. She also mentioned there's a bunch of films that aren't are not on our preview list because they're actually going to be playing at some festivals right now. So TIFF starts on September 5th. Venice and Telluride are happening right now. So sometimes those festivals and how they pan out sort of determine which films actually are going to get released limited. So there might be some films we talk about in this episode, or some films that we totally miss that are going to be coming out for the fall season that we just don't know about yet. That said, that's Lucy in the Sky, again, October 4th. I'm also looking forward to that, especially because Nick Offerman is in that film. And so I'm always happy to see him performing in something. Okay, so the next film, if we're going chronologically, is The Lighthouse. This is on my most anticipated list.
It would have been on mine if you didn't take it first.
Right on. I've heard really great things about this. It did not compete at Cannes Film Festival. A bunch of critics have managed to get some sneaky early previews of this film already, and I am so ready for this. This is the film starring Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. It's from director Robert Eggers, who of course directed The Witch, which was kind of a surprise cult hit of a horror film in 2016. It's a film that I'm surprised has kind of broken through the noise a little bit with people. It's a film that gets brought up a lot still, that people are still are thinking about. I don't know if that's fair to say, but I've definitely gotten that impression.
I think it is.
And I
think it's a credit because that's it felt like one of those few films, or not one of the few films, like one of the main films that the A24 approach worked, where it was the genesis of A24 is taking what otherwise would be kind of small, very art house movies and giving them an expansive release in major theaters. And that felt like one of the times where that really happened in a major way, to the point where people were able to see it and talk about it, even if they didn't necessarily like it. And I think it's also one of those films that even if you don't really jive with it when you see it, it sticks with you pretty well, and you find yourself kind of thinking about it more and more. So yeah, I think that's part of the appeal of the film, and I'm hoping the same is said about The Lighthouse.
Exactly. See, that is what I'm looking forward to and hoping will be the case for The Lighthouse. It has a lot of drawbacks in terms of how accessible it's actually going to be for audiences. First of all, it is black and white. That's something that turns some people off, unfortunately, because of superficial reasons.
Of course, yeah.
It's also a film, it doesn't have a big cast. It's just these two actors. That's the entire cast of this film. It looks very weird. It looks very off kilter. It's long. It's 110 minutes, or nearly 2 hours that we're spending with just two actors. But some of these things people will take as pluses, right? I'm certainly interested because not only did Robert Eggers write this film, he wrote it alongside Max Eggers, excuse me, who I've never heard of before this film, but I'm assuming he's related to Robert Eggers. So the little bit of mystery there that I haven't really delved into quite yet. And what I'm hearing from critics, like the things that they're saying is great about this film, it's the performances, and it's also the setting and how this film comes about, technically speaking, which really fascinates me. It's a film that was filmed. It's a film that was filmed. It's a movie that was filmed in Nova Scotia. And it's just that unique 35 millimeter sort of aesthetic that has me just really enraptured. That trailer, I think you will agree, is just so haunting and chilling. And I can't wait to completely dive into this film. Pun fully intended.
Yeah, I love the trailer. I just love how weird and intense it looks. And I love that it looks like a swashbuckling good time for me and hopefully many other people. And I looked it up. Max Eggers is the brother of Robert Eggers.
Okay, great. So that was my assumption. Yeah. I didn't want to misspeak. I messed up here. So I thought Lighthouse was the next film after Lucy in the Sky and our most anticipated. It is not. There are two other films that come up for the Lighthouse. So I apologize for that.
I was wondering, yeah.
I can't tell time. But... Well, real quick though, I do want to say, like, none of our most anticipated films, none of them come out in September, so that's a bummer. So that September just doesn't have a lot of films that I think you or I are really excited about. And
a few, but not as many.
Right, not as much as these films, we should say. And only two of these films are November, which is a little interesting. But I think October and November can be really hit or miss. Some years you have a great October. Other years, October is kind of a dead zone. And this year, I think October is full of some pretty interesting films that look like they could have some sway with people. So the next film, there are two films that come out October 11th. One of them is a Netflix movie called El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. And we talked about this one a little bit last week as well, but fill the listeners in, catch them up, Will. Why are you looking forward to El Camino?
Yeah, well, I'm cheating a little bit because it's technically a TV movie. I don't believe it's going to have any theatrical rollout, though I hope it does. This is the spin-off movie that was very abruptly teased earlier or late last year. Very few details had come out at the time, and very few details have been released since then. We just got the teaser for this over the past weekend, and they're definitely trying to keep it as low-key and under the rug as possible. And I think personally that's getting me even more excited. For me, the main reason I'm excited about this is because Breaking Bad is full stop my favorite TV show. I love it. I really, I feel like it was one of those shows that was very pivotal to my eventual appreciation of TV as a medium and how it could tell such an expansive story throughout many seasons and still be very cinematic and intense and gripping and filled with great acting, great direction, and great cinematography, and so on and so forth. I've really been enjoying Better Call Saul of late. I still need to finish the last season, but I didn't necessarily need this movie per se. Like, I felt like the ending to Breaking Bad, without giving anything away, was pretty satisfying, and I felt like it wasn't like the all-time greatest finale, but I thought it definitely felt definitive and final in a way that it didn't necessarily need a continuation, which is making me a little nervous about why they're making a movie like this. But at the same time, like I said before, Better Call Saul is a show that didn't really seem to need a purpose either, but they certainly proved their merit with that. And I think they've had a show made that makes some people wonder if it's not only as good, but even better than Breaking Bad. And I'm wondering if they're going to recapture that magic with this movie El Camino in a way that makes it not only a fitting continuation of the show, but something that feels even more worthy of the final chapter, I'm assuming, to this series as the show's actual series finale was. So I'm really excited. I'm really hoping this is something worthwhile, and I'm really hoping I don't get spoiled on anything significant before I see the film. But even though I'm usually very behind on my Netflix stuff, I know for a fact this is one I'm just going to watch right as soon as I get a chance to press play on Netflix.
Yeah, I definitely struggled a little bit with whether or not we should include this because, like you said, it is kind of a TV movie. It's actually going to be broadcast on AMC. So it's not going to, I just don't see a theatrical release happening for it. It'll hit Netflix on October 11th, like you said. And it was actually produced by Sony Pictures Television, which I found kind of surprising. Like I thought that's Netflix and AMC would,
Well, but Sony was the producers on the show Breaking Bad, so that's not that surprising.
Well, just in the sense that, like, if this was like a movie, you would think that, I mean, I guess that's true. Like, just let it be the aesthetic of the show. But I was hoping that if you are going to make a movie, make it more cinematic. Not that Breaking Bad is not cinematic. I also really love that show. I just think if you're going to make a movie, it has to have like a different kind of feel to sort of justify its existence, I guess. But maybe I'm just pontificating too early.
I mean, that's the one thing that did surprise me watching the teaser is that it felt way more Netflix than AMC. I'm wondering how big of a hand Netflix had in this movie as opposed to AMC.
Yeah.
And why they're getting the technical release of this before AMC. But yeah, I'm hoping, because I mean, nothing, against Netflix, but I just think that look and the way it was designed. I mean, obviously it seems like this isn't shot on film the way Breaking Bad was. So that's a little disheartening, but, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for the best here. It does seem like it's going to be a lot like visually darker than what we're used to getting from kind of the more sun-kissed look of Breaking Bad, which I don't know if that's just going to be a thematic choice or if that's just Netflix influence with the like kind of cold digital look of it. But we'll see. I'm very curious, like I said, about this film, and I'm hoping it's for the better.
Yeah, and I think some of that curiosity is because we really just don't know much about this in general. Like, we don't know who the cinematographer is. We don't know who's in the movie besides Aaron Paul as Jesse Pinkman and Charles Baker, of course, who's in the teaser as Skinny Pete. But we don't really know like the plot necessarily. We don't know. Mm-hmm. We know that Vince Gilligan directed it. We know that he wrote it. We know this has a lot of the producers from the show. We know that Netflix and AMC. In it. I think there is something interesting about the relationship between Netflix and AMC. They're two totally different organizations that like each other a lot because Netflix makes a lot of money off of subscriptions because people watch Walking Dead, they watch Breaking Bad, and they watch Mad Men. 3 of the biggest AMC shows, and a bunch of others, of course, but those 3 shows in particular do very well for Netflix. And AMC really loves Netflix, I think, because Netflix has introduced a lot of people to shows that they'll eventually watch on AMC. That binge model has been very helpful for AMC because Breaking Bad itself was one of those first shows, I think, that and Walking Dead, actually, that people really got into Breaking Bad late in the game because they were able to binge the whole thing. That's partly what I did. Like, I watched it on AMC when it first came out in 2008. But I didn't really get into Breaking Bad until I was able to watch these seasons. Same thing goes for Walking Dead, actually. So I get the relationship. It makes sense. I'm just sort of cautious about this one because they just aren't telling us anything. And I don't know. I feel like, am I supposed to watch Breaking or Better Call Saul before I watch this? Do I have to do that, Will?
Well, it certainly wouldn't hurt. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I do think it's very interesting that if this does well, either for Netflix or AMC or both, this could inspire more of a relationship like you're talking about between networks and streaming services. Because at this point, it's safe to say that, streaming services like Netflix and cable channels like AMC, they're kind of both at disadvantage in that, obviously with more streaming services coming in and, obviously more content just being around, they have to find different ways to stand out, like make themselves more distinct. If there is a way to kind of have this kind of relationship with a streaming service and network where they both profit off the final product, that's going to be a pretty fascinating turn of events for what streaming and network television or cable television in this case is going to be in the future. So it could be an interesting first step for what the future of television is going to look like on both streaming and cable television. And in that sense, that also makes me very curious about what this film is going to look like.
That's definitely very true for Netflix, but I also think about Disney Plus, which is not going to have the binge model for most of their shows.
But they could be doing something. Do you think, like, if this does well, like, there could be something with, like, ABC and Disney Plus where they have a similar kind of relationship like that?
I don't know. They could. I'm looking at Disney Plus sort of being a little bit more throwback, a little bit more of, like, our episodes are they're basically going to be like HBO, where it's like every single week it's going to be like an event sort of thing.
Right.
So I'm not sure how that's going to play with some of the stuff they have on Hulu and AMC, or not AMC, ABC, for example. But I do like that Netflix has always been very unapologetic about their model, their binging model. And I do, to what you're saying, I like that they are playing well with AMC in that way, because they do kind of understand what people like about that sort of entertainment. And it's different from how Disney and HBO and them do things, but I think that's fine. I like the variety, is all I'm saying. So that's El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie.
Yeah.
streams on October 11th. There's another film that actually comes out in theaters on October 11th. It's going to be in limited release for reasons that should be obvious. Parasites.
Another one I'm very jealous you picked before me.
Yes, Bong Joon-ho's film, which it's funny too because his last film, Okja, was a Netflix film. So kind of ironic or coincidental, I guess we should say. This film is probably one of the most talked about foreign films of the year, I want to say.
It won the Palme d'Or.
It's the first Korean film to receive that award. It received, of course, at the Cannes Film Festival. It has already been selected by South Korea to be in the Best International Feature Film at the upcoming Academy Awards for next year. They have a lot of faith in this film, and I obviously haven't seen it yet, but I think for Bong Joon-ho films, a lot of people will agree, fantastic filmmaker. I wasn't the biggest fan of Okja, but Snowpiercer is absolutely like one of my favorite films of the decade, probably. Certainly in my top 20. I'm not sure how caught up you are on his filmography, but I guess
I've seen most.
The Host is probably, you think, his most like, okay, start here kind of film.
Yeah, I don't know if that's more popular than Snowpiercer as far as what the public might know him from, but yeah, I mean, certainly that was my introduction to Bong Joon-ho, and I think it's a very good one. And I'm also a big fan of his follow-up film set called Mother, not to be confused with the Darren Aronofsky movie with Jennifer Lawrence. But it's also very good, and I would highly recommend that because I think it kind of gets overlooked as the middle film between The Host and Snowpiercer, which is a shame because I think it's quite as good. I think I liked it a little more than Snowpiercer, truth be told. But yeah, I've really enjoyed, I think, everything I've seen from him, and I hope this film is no exception.
Yeah, so I don't want to know what the plot is. I want to watch this film completely fresh. I've not read any synopsis. I know nothing about it. I'm not watching any teasers or trailers. I'm just going to watch this film as soon as I'm allowed to. And it's great how it's worked out for the film too, because Neon acquired the rights to distribute, and I think Neon has done a great job of getting their films out there to people, especially in America. And it's going to be getting a pretty decent release. I mean, it's going to be in Russia. It's going to be in French-speaking countries. It's even going to be in Germany. Like people are going to be able to see this film, I think. And if it's as good as I'm hearing, that will be great, I think. And that's all we have to say about Parasite. That's just a film that I have a feeling we're going to be talking about again very soon, and for hopefully the right reasons. All right, so that's October 11th. Here, those are all the October films. Here's a film that comes out right on November 1st. This is another Netflix movie. And, you know, as we're going through it, I'm actually surprised we have more than one Netflix movie on this list. But this is my third most anticipated film. So I had, again, The Lighthouse, Parasite. This is my third one, The Irishman. The Irishman is a film you and I have been talking about on Cinemaholics, I want to say for probably the entire time. Yeah, I feel like we've known about this film for a long time. We've been looking forward to it. I have the book. I've been caught up on the story at this point. It's a film that we've had a lot of interest in because it's Martin Scorsese. We found out today it's 3.5 hours long, so that's great.
210 minutes, supposedly.
His longest film of all time. Longer than Goodfellas, longer than,
No, I was going to say, just to be clear, there is a chance that that's not the official runtime, that it might be cut down, because I think that's a festival time. So there's a chance that they, once it premieres the festival, they might cut like 10 or 20 minutes or so.
I want to see, the whole thing. I don't want to, don't give me the 90-minute version.
No, I don't think it'll be 90 minutes, no. But I could see maybe them cutting like, 10, 15, maybe even 20 or 25 minutes if they feel that it's, too weighted. But I am also saying that, I've written about this on Cinema Blend. Just put an intermission in there.
Just put it in. We want intermissions on the Cinemaholics podcast. If you agree, put your Cinemaholics sticker that you can get from our imaginary merch website.
After all, I mean, the chains, they're not playing the movie, so they don't care. Yeah. You can just... Yeah, it's going to be kind of smaller theaters. They're going to play it anyway.
It's going to be in landmark theaters. It's going to be at the Alamo Drafthouse, probably. I don't see it being anywhere else because his last film, Silence, was a bit of a flop. No one saw it.
Well, we both really liked it.
I did, yeah.
But yeah, I liked it a lot too. But
audiences didn't even know it was out. Yeah. Like they just, it came out in like January, like right at the tail end of like the Oscar cutoff, and then nobody watched it except for us.
Yeah, who distributed that one? I forget.
Silence. Let's see. I know it was co-produced by some Japanese countries, but I'm pretty sure the film itself was Paramount's. I hope I'm not wrong about
Oh, yeah.
that, because I think it was like Paramount Studio Canal. Yeah, don't quote me on that one.
Sure. But yeah, no, I'm very excited about The Irishman. I didn't read the book. I don't know if it's worth reading or if
It is
you
very good.
is okay.
Yeah, it's called I Heard You Paint Houses.
Yeah, so I can see why they went with The Irishman, a little more snappy a title, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, the trailer definitely looks like, it's kind of harkening back to the mob movies or the mafia movies that we're used to seeing from Scorsese, and hopefully, I don't want to say a return to form, because as we've already noted, I think he's never really had a decline period necessarily, at least not in recent years.
Yeah,
but
that's probably true.
But it would be like a kind of return to the films of yore, like what he's known for, what you typically expect from a Martin Scorsese film in a more stereotypical sense. But I don't mean that in a negative way. Like, just like it's gonna be like full Marty, a full Marty party,
Yeah.
And I hope it's worth the while.
Yeah, I know Martin Scorsese, he's wanted to make this movie for a long time. It's been in development since before 2014, right? So it's taken a while. And I mean, you just look at this cast. Robert De Niro as Frank the Irishman Sheeran. I think that's Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese are just two peas in a pod, right? But then you also have Al Pacino, who, of course, part of some of the best films of all time, which are, of course, mob movies, the Godfather films. He plays Jimmy Hoffa, who surprisingly hasn't been portrayed that often in popular culture. I think Jack Nicholson is probably the most prominent.
Hoffa, the Danny DeVito movie, yeah.
Yeah, the Hoffa from 1992. And then, Jimmy Hoffa's shown up in some things here and there, some miniseries and such. But yeah, this is going to be definitely a big role for him. Joe Pesci. Back on the big screen.
Yeah.
I'm very nervous but excited about this.
First movie in almost 10 years, I believe.
Yeah, if not longer. And then Harvey Keitel also on the big screen again after it feels like a while. I don't know if he's been on maybe a movie here or there. I don't remember seeing him recently.
Yeah, Grand Budapest.
Okay.
A couple other things. Yeah.
That was a while ago. Bobby Cannavale is, of course, in this as well. Anna Paquin. I mean, this cast is just fantastic. Ray Romano, Sebastian Maniscalco. It's a who's who of Italian Americans, that's for sure. But that's The Irishman. Long movie. It's going to be premiering, I believe, at the New York Film Festival at the end of September. So we're going to hear about it. Like, we're going to hear if it's good or not from some people, or whether or not they liked it, we should say, before it hits Netflix. But then it's not actually going to hit. Sorry, I actually misspoke. It has a limited theatrical release on November 1st. Right. It doesn't hit Netflix on November 1st. It hits Netflix on November 27th. So that's Thanksgiving weekend. Makes a lot of sense though, because Thanksgiving weekend is like prime Netflix time, right? Yeah. Because people are at home for the holidays. They're like, remember how well
they're not
Bird Box and Bright did, right?
Yeah. I was going to say, if they weren't seeing Frozen 2, they'll be at home watching Netflix, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I looked that up. Frozen 2 actually comes out the weekend before Thanksgiving, and then the 27th is a Wednesday. So I had it completely the other way around. So,
well, I mean, that makes sense because probably, they don't, I'm guessing with schools, they probably let off that week. So, like that Friday would be like the last day of school, and it's like we have a long weekend and we can see Frozen 2 in theaters now. Yeah.
And it's going to be playing that entire holiday week, so it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But all right, that's The Irishman. Again, it'll hit a limited theatrical release on November 1st. If you live near an Alamo Drafthouse or a Landmark Theater, you'll probably be able to see it. Similar to how Roma was in some theaters early on, and I do remember I saw Roma in a Landmark Theater. So otherwise, you'll be able to see it later on November 27th. All right, Will, we have just one movie left on our most anticipated list, and it's yours. What is this film, and when does it come out?
It's the Mr. Rogers biopic with Tom Hanks called A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. This is directed by, what's her name? Marielle Heller?
That's right.
Is that, yeah. Did I get that name pronunciation right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Hey, one for me. You probably know her from last year's Can You Ever Forgive Me, as well as her directorial debut, The Diary of a Teenage Girl, I believe that was what it was called, right?
Both fantastic movies.
Yeah, I really enjoyed both films. But this one, hits near and dear to me. It's about our local television personality, Fred Rogers. He had a beautiful documentary come out about him last year called Won't You Be My Neighbor?
And by the way, local to Pittsburgh, in case some people don't know your hometown.
Right. And it was filmed here in Pittsburgh as well. Unfortunately, don't expect a cameo from me. I tried but I did not get a part in the film.
Not
I
even
really
in an
wanted
episode of Mr. Rogers where you're one of the kids in the background.
No, that's actually one of my biggest regrets is never meeting Mr. Rogers.
Oh.
But yeah, anyway, yeah, so this is just going to be, it's based on an Esquire, article or feature. So it's not going to be like his full life story, I should stress. It's going to be just about like a slice of life, kind of, him in his older years, I think around like maybe 60 or so. Being interviewed by this kind of skeptic journalist, who doesn't really, believe the magic, doesn't really think it's, authentic.
Tom Junod.
Great. And it seems like he's going to probably have a bigger role in the film than he does in the article, because I have read the feature that the film is based on. Yeah, so it could go either way. The trailer does seem maybe a little too saccharine, in a way that's kind of worrying me a bit, but I'm hoping for the best here. I obviously really, really want this movie to be good. Just when they first show 90s Pittsburgh, at the beginning of the trailer, my heart went aflutter. It hit me. One of these Disney live action remakes ever can. And that alone was, I think, worth a while, but I'm really hoping the movie itself, lives up to what it could be. And I'm really hoping that Tom Hanks, makes it work. I obviously know that from many films at this point that he is a well-proven talent, and I think he could be the right person for this part if he does it well. So I'm really hoping for the best with this. This is one I obviously really have high emotional stakes in as far as its ultimate success, and hopefully I'll be singing its praises when it comes out this November 22nd.
I couldn't agree more. I'm a big fan of Won't You Be My Neighbor, the documentary from Morgan Neville that just, for some reason, didn't even get nominated for an Academy Award. And it looks like this will probably be the Oscar movie that gives Mr. Rogers his due. Of course, played here by Tom Hanks. I'm a little put off by the fact that just Tom Hanks does not look like Mr. Rogers. It's hard to get around that, but I'm hoping that the performance definitely puts that aside and just lets you just sit in this world and forget all of that. And I think that's very possible. Tom Hanks has done it so many times in his career. We should not doubt him at this point, for sure.
Yeah, he's not 143. I think it's a documentary he talked about. Did the documentary go into that?
Which documentary?
I think it did. Won't You Be My Neighbor? Didn't they talk about him being 143 pounds?
Oh, I was like, I didn't know what you meant by 143. I was like, the movie 43? We're talking about that now?
No. Mr. Rogers went out of his way, and this is something that the article details a lot, to be 143
Yeah, that was in the
pounds,
documentary.
I love you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's his favorite thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then the eyebrows seem a little distracting. I don't know if they needed to make those so prominent, but yeah, we've seen several examples where when we see the actor, in stills and trailers, it's like, I don't know. I don't really buy that. But when you see the film, it's like, oh, the actor just appears and it's that person. So I'm hoping that's what happens here. We'll see. But I don't know. I do agree with you that it doesn't quite look exactly like Mr. Rogers that we know from, considering that he's such a prominent TV figure.
Nor could it, but we'll see how it turns out. All right, so this next one.
My pick was always Ty Burrell, or what's his name? The guy from Modern Family.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
I always thought he would be a good Mr. Rogers.
Now that you say it. Yeah, now I'm going to have to think about that for a while. If only he was a good enough actor. I don't know.
Oh, you're not a big fan of Ty Burrell?
He's fine. I'm just being nice. I'm just being mean. Yeah. But, all right.
Yeah.
Those are our most anticipated films of the fall. Yeah, I know, for Mr. Rogers. It's supposed to be nice. Okay, let's talk about our Dark Horse films. We can go a little bit quicker through this one, because I think the first one here, we already mentioned, Ad Astra. That's your Dark Horse. Comes out September 20th. It was pushed down a bit. And why is it your Dark Horse? Do you think it's just because the release date has you worried?
It's not so much the quality of the film as far as my Dark Horse reasoning. It's more that I don't know how it's going to do. I'm very worried about what Disney is going to do as far as its release. Like, I'm worried that the trailers are going to make it seem like this, like, big, like, Gravity-esque, like, space adventure, and it's always going to be, a James Gray film, so it's going to be a lot more subdued, a lot of quiet scenery scenes, and I'm worried that audiences are going to be like, this isn't what the trailer was, and not come out to see it. That's my concern for it being a Dark Horse. I don't know if the trailer has really blown me away either. I think it looks good, but I don't know if it looks like quite like James Gray great yet. But I'm obviously going to give everyone involved the benefit of the doubt. I think this could be something really special. It does look a lot like Space Cowboys 2. But yeah, I could see this one being a really amazing film. And my uncertainties are less about the quality and more just about my concerns that Disney will mess up the release.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Actually, I think that Brad Pitt being the star of role, I think some of his clout or goodwill that he earned with audiences once upon a time in Hollywood is going to help out here a bit. Tommy Lee Jones is apparently in this, but they're like downplaying him in the movie as Brad Pitt's father, I guess. I'm not really sure what this movie is about or what it's going for. I agree that so far Disney has not had a good track record with distributing Fox films, just because it just seems like they're not interested in putting in that extra effort, which is just a little bit BS to me. But it's an expensive film. Costs $87 million to make, so they got to be hoping that it earns at least double that. But I don't know. It's going to be up against some serious competition. I guess we should leave it at that. It's going to be premiering at the Venice Film Festival later this week. So we're recording this actually before, like, by the time people are listening to this, it'll have already premiered. So I think that's a good sign that they're rolling out in festival circuits. So I'm
Me too. I agree.
yeah, I'm definitely not super worried or anything, but I am a little bit like, is this going to be marketed? So what you're saying, like, correctly or in a way that's going to make it effective?
Yeah.
The next film we have here is Joker. So this is another Warner Brothers film that, I did misspeak earlier because I said there aren't any other like DC movies. That's not technically true. Joker is a DC movie coming out.
Right.
So I'm full of mistakes. So this episode.
Well, this is they gave this one a new label, right? Isn't it like something like DC Dark?
I think that's
like
part
that?
of it. Is that like they're really downplaying the connection between this and it's like they're ashamed of it as a superhero film. And not ashamed, but just like they don't want people to make that association. They want people to just really engage with this film on a totally different level of it just happens to feature a character from the DC comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but talking about the film itself, this is one that as soon as like it was introduced and more information came out, I'm like, even if this movie isn't good, it's obviously going to be very intriguing for me. Just because, obviously, as soon as Joaquin Phoenix was involved, I'm like, done, I'm seeing it. Because I think Joaquin Phoenix is one of the finest, actually not one of the finest, I think he's the finest actor working today. I consider him as close as we got to a working Marlon Brando. I think he is a tremendous actor who really chameleons into his roles. And I think he is very choosy about what he picks. Like, I don't think he does a film just to do it. Like, I think he has to feel like it's worth the effort. And that's not to say that every one of his movies has been a worthwhile success. Obviously, there's been a couple like Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot that end up being a misfire. But this movie could be a misfire. It could be a very big disaster in the way that a lot of people are anticipating, kind of to a worrisome degree, how much glee some people are getting about dismissing this film. But I think that's less about the movie itself and more that about the people who are probably going to already champion it without even seeing it. That's my big concern too, is that I don't want to, this is one of those times where I'm not really looking forward to the conversation around the film. It's going to be like an even more extreme version of what we had for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And it's probably going to get very ugly very quickly. And, I don't want to be on Twitter when that's happening. But as for the film itself, it's inspired by, speaking of Martin Scorsese, again, one of my favorite Scorsese films, The King of Comedy, which has, I think, maybe my favorite Robert De Niro performance, and it's a film you just recently watched. So we'll talk about that in a little bit.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So, I'm very, very curious about this film in a way that I can't guarantee it's going to be good. But that trailer hooked me. I think it's a great trailer, and Todd Phillips is a director that generally he's more missing hit.
Yeah, let's talk about Todd Phillips. Let's talk about some of his films.
I mean, more often than not, his films aren't very good. But when he's good, I mean, people want to dismiss The Hangover for its successes, but I'll say it. I think it's a well-directed movie.
The first Hangover,
like, I think as far as the studio, that's what I mean. I think it's a well-directed comedy, and I think when he's on his game, like, I think he can be a good director. My problem is that I don't know if this is going to be the right material for him. Obviously, War Dogs is a film that I didn't really care for. I think that was him trying to hearken to Scorsese, that time being Goodfellas, in a way that felt very obvious and, kind of, it didn't feel like a flattering imitation of his work, in my opinion, even though it had a really solid performance from Jonah Hill. It ultimately didn't suit me too well, and I'm worried it's going to be more of the same of that with the Joker, but I'll say that it's just a big question mark for me, which is a lot more intriguing than a film, like, I don't know. What's a film that seems like a guaranteed success at this point?
Like in general?
I don't know. Yeah, it's coming out in the next couple months.
I mean, we talked about it, Chapter 2. That's obviously going to be a
Right, yeah, something like that.
success.
Yeah.
I mean, we could look at all kinds of films on this list that we'll get to, right? That just, like,
Right.
even Irishman. Irishman's going to be a film people are going to talk about. Even if it's not that great, people are going to watch it and have strong opinions about it one way or the other, right?
Right, that's the thing, is that this movie, I genuinely don't know what I'm going to get. It could be an amazing movie that blows all my expectations out of the water, or it could be a huge disaster that I'm fearing it's going to be. Or it could just be more likely just a very okay film that, doesn't really do what it does, but it looks nice and has a couple standout moments. That's probably what's going to end up being, but, it's like a big mystery box to me, and I can't help but be curious to check it out when it comes to theaters on October 4th, I believe, right?
That's the case, and I think this is going to be a big hit, right? It cost $55 million to make. I think it's going to make way more than that. I think people are going.
Also has a great cast.
People are going to come out and see it. It does have a good cast. Robert De Niro is in this movie. He's just having quite the fall.
Zazie
Beetz. Zazie Beetz, who's in another movie this fall that we were just talking about, and Francis Conroy. So it is.
And Brian Tyree Henry, right? Isn't he in it too?
Yes, he is. He's like a nurse, I believe. Mark Maron is in the film. Yeah, Bill Camp. So plenty of people, I
love all those people.
Here's the thing. We've kind of alluded to it. I do think that it is being made by DC Films. So it's Village Roadshow, but DC has a hand in it. So we don't want to make it sound like it's totally removed from DC. I don't want that to come across to people.
Oh, what the Joker in it alone, it's obviously in the DC, wheelhouse.
Right, but just pointing out they have a hand in this. Here's something weird. So Todd Phillips, looking at his filmography, the last film he directed was War Dogs. As you mentioned, he also did, before that, Hangover Part 3 and Hangover Part 2. He also did Due Date, film that's not terrible, but I just remember being thoroughly unimpressed by the Robert Downey Jr., Zach Galifianakis. Yeah, very middle of the road, pun intended, all that. I do really like Old School. Old School is my favorite movie from him. I also, guilty pleasure, I guess, but I really like Road Trip. That's a film he wrote and directed.
Is it? And I haven't seen it, but his first two films are like a fish documentary and like a kind of mockumentary about like a frat or something.
Yeah,
like those movies are supposed to be really good.
The first one's a documentary. I forget what it's called, but the second one, Frat House, is I think what you're talking about.
Right, but then there's also like the fish documentary, which is supposed to be like his best work, which I haven't seen, but it's supposed to be really amazing.
The one about Gigi Allen.
Yeah, is it?
Because there's also,
truth be told, I don't.
Oh no, you're talking about Bittersweet Motel. That came out after.
Is it?
That's like that. He came out with that the same year as Road Trip. Okay. Yeah, I haven't.
Is this supposed to be his best film? I don't know. People who've seen it said it's like that's his best work. So I mean, I'm not even like a fish fan, but I've just heard it's like really worth checking out. So that's what I mean. Like when he's on his game, he seems to be like he makes some good stuff. It's just that he's not on his game all that often.
yeah. He made Starsky and Hutch, School for Scoundrels. Yeah. He wrote Borat.
School for Scoundrels.
He was
okay.
a co-writer.
Yeah, he was one of the writers for Borat. Yeah. So he's an Oscar nominee.
He is. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't like School for Scoundrels as much as I like Billy Bob Thornton.
It was okay.
So yeah, like you said, bit hit or miss all around. Another weird thing is he produced A Star Is Born from just last year, and Bradley Cooper, who directed that film, is a producer on this film, which is a connection that I'm really curious about. Like, I really want to know more about. No, I don't think he's going to be in it, but I just don't understand it. Like, I don't get what brought Bradley Cooper and Todd Phillips together. That's surprising to me.
Obviously, The Hangover.
Well, just in the sense of to make movies like this, because Hangover is such a departure from what those movies are about. I always got the sense that Bradley Cooper kind of was done with those films after the first one.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to assume, but I mean, he did. I think Bradley Cooper was also a producer on War Dogs as well.
Oh, I bet that would make sense then if they just sort of never left each other's side. That's actually kind of nice in a way.
Right.
Also, one of the co-writers is Scott Silver, who another super hit or miss dude, right? The last film he wrote was The Finest Hours. Didn't even see that one. That's the Chris Pine film, the Disney.
The boat one.
Yeah, they're on a boat.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then
vaguely.
The film before that was The Fighter. 6 years removed. And he co-wrote that, so he didn't really have the biggest hand in it. That's a great film, but then the year before that, X-Men Origins Wolverine, One of the worst films of that decade, some would say. And he had,
Pretty bad.
I should say, he helped rewrite Origins Wolverine. He's not like one of the I'm not even sure he's credited on that film. The only film Scott Silver has a hand in that I think is like legitimately really good as a writer is 8 Mile. So
Okay.
I look at the creative talent behind Joker and I just don't see it yet. I see the cast, but I don't. My trepidation is less on the like, oh, here's another white man psychopath. I get all those complaints of like, we're so sick of that stuff. Oh, Breaking Bad, seriously? Like, people are just getting sick of that whole aesthetic. I'm more curious and concerned, I guess, about the people behind the camera, as we've already mentioned. That's probably enough Joker talk, actually. We should move on. We'll get to all this in a month or two.
Right, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, it's just intriguing enough where it's like, there are enough talented people and there's enough like worrisome people involved where it's like it can really swing any which way. It's like not in any certain terms what the quality of this movie is going to be. And like I said, I'm not really looking forward to what the conversation is going to be, even no matter how I feel about the film. And I imagine the opinions about the film are going to extremely vary. But yeah, it's a big question mark. I'm very curious about it. We should also mention at one point Scorsese was a producer on the film and he's not anymore. So that's a little concerning as well. I don't know if he just got too busy or if he stopped believing in the project, but in any case, yeah, it's a big question mark, and that's why it's a dark horse for me.
Right on. We really got to just breeze past the rest of these.
Sure.
There aren't a lot that I'm all that curious about anyway, but another October 11th film is The Addams Family. This is the animated one. It looks kind of fun.
Oh, from your favorite filmmaker behind Sausage Party.
I know what you're probably thinking, that I'm a hypocrite, that I have no standing whatsoever. But I've always had. I mean, you like the Addams Family, right? Like
the show or the movies?
The
I
movies,
like both, yeah.
right? Like I've always thought it's just a great idea. It's a great motif, and I really like this voice cast: Oscar Isaac, Charlize Theron, Chloe Grace Moretz. It's good. Nick Kroll, you love Nick Kroll, and
yeah, a good guy.
Yeah, am I the biggest fan of Conrad Vernon? Not necessarily. I think that's he's done some films that I'm not the biggest fan of. Some Madagascar, DreamWorks stuff doesn't quite work for me. But at the same time, I think that I don't know.
You're a big fan.
I want this to succeed.
Shrek 2?
Yeah, that's true. Long time ago, of course, but so I
you've told me that you prefer Shrek 2 over Shrek 1.
I do.
Which. Yeah,
I do.
Which I think is absurd, but that's neither
It's
here nor
not
there.
absurd. It's just true. Now to your.
I mean, I thought that when I was a kid.
Now
that
I do think. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Greg Tiernan's feature debut, Sausage Party, and I don't know if I blame that solely on him. I think that was a heavily Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg thing, and I just thought that film was miserable. But I have nothing against him. So and he's really an animator. So like from what I've seen, Addams Family has like something to its animation that's interesting. I finally saw the first full trailer where they get into the story, and that worries me a lot. So it's still a bit of a dark horse.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are really going to come out for this, but as a Halloween movie, sure, I think that could be a lot of fun. I don't know. Where are you at?
So I'm kind of on the opposite end with Sausage Party. Like I was kind of mixing the film all together, but I think what I liked about it was more the Seth Rogen stuff and less what I perceived to be his involvement, which I think kind of made the film a little more, based on what I'm seeing for this trailer, a lot more kind of garish and bombastic than what that film I think should have been. And I don't know, it just seems like I don't really like the look of this new Addams Family. Like I get that he's trying to harken to the 2D design, but some things are 2D for a reason. I don't know. It doesn't look visually appealing to me. I'm not a big fan of the comedy that I'm seeing here. I did enjoy the frog gag in the one trailer I saw, but beyond that, I don't know. It just doesn't. I like the Addams Family, but this doesn't really look like it's going to be something worth seeing. But who knows? Maybe it'll be the surprise of the fall.
I also enjoy the frog gag. I think that's a pretty inspired goof.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Addams Family. 2 films come out on October 18th, and they're very, very different from each other. One of them, I'm actually surprised you have as a dark horse. I actually think this one could be really good. Jojo Rabbit. This is the new Taika Waititi film where Hitler is somebody's imaginary friend. Just describing that gives me joy. But why is it a dark horse?
Right. Again, it's less about the quality of the film and more about Disney. In that there was this article that came out where it's like they don't know, like I guess some executives are kind of nervous about having the film under their house, and I'm very concerned with what they're going to do with it. So that's my concern mainly. I think the film is finished, and I think it's going to come out as it is, but I don't know if it's going to be, I don't even know if it's going to come out this fall. They might delay it to the spring based on what I've heard, which is just pure speculation. So I can't say if I have any official knowledge on that, but, yeah, I just don't, I want it to be good. I really think the trailer's a lot of fun. I think the premise is just kooky and original enough that I could see this being really something outstanding. I also think the trailer looks maybe a little bit too much like Moonrise Kingdom, but that's a pretty minor complaint in the scheme of things. But my dark horse placement here has less to do with what I perceive to be a maybe potentially bad film. I think it's going to be good. I'm just very nervous about how Disney's going to handle it. That's again my concern.
Yeah, I haven't read the book Caging Skies by Christine.
Oh, it's based on a book?
It is, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how much Disney can mess with this film in that sense. But I honestly, what's got me with this movie is the cast. I think the cast, with the exception of Rebel Wilson, has me so excited. And also, I'm starting to get a little annoyed with Scarlett Johansson, but that's a totally different conversation. But Thomasin McKenzie is in this movie. We haven't seen her since Leave No Trace. One of my favorite performances from last year. I can't wait to see her follow up to that film. Stephen Merchant, always great to see him. Alfie Allen, who from Game of Thrones. Sam Rockwell. It's of all the casts in the films we're talking about, this is probably the one that I'm just most giddy about, I guess. But yeah, to your point, I think Disney is being nicer to Fox Searchlight than they are to some of the other studios. So that's the thing that gives me maybe like a false sense of hope. They did a good job with like Ready or Not, for example. And I hope that carries over to here. And there's another film we talked about earlier, this Fox Searchlight. Was it Ad Astra?
Ad Astra? Yeah. I think I was going to say, is that Fox Searchlight as well?
Yeah, maybe, unless I'm mixing things up. But yeah, so it is a Fox film.
Oh, wait. No, I think it's Lucy in the Sky.
Oh,
that's
okay.
The Fox Searchlight.
Yeah, thank you. So
yeah,
TBD. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out. I think that it's Taika Waititi, so I'm automatically excited for that reason. And I was very close to putting this on my most anticipated for sure.
Surprised you didn't.
I am too, a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, and then here's my dark horse, because we just finished going through all yours. I just have two left. Another film for October 18th is Zombieland Double Tap. I think I keep going back and forth with this movie. I don't know how you feel about it.
Me too. Yeah, I'm about the same.
It's just, it's not that I think it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be dull. Like, I just think that it's going to be a movie that, because it's zombies, where I feel like we're done with zombies at this point, right? Like, we've been done for a while.
Well, that's good. I wouldn't say that.
I mean, Dead Don't Die.
Dead
Don't Die didn't really carry far. And the thing that interested me in this movie is not the zombie aspect at all. What interests me is seeing Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Abigail Breslin, and Emma Stone back together. That was a group of four that was just so perfectly cast for Zombieland. What was that, 2010?
Yeah, and it's fascinating, with the exception, I guess, of Abigail Breslin. Like, the three of them have gone on to, make very big movies, and they're all like way bigger stars now than they were when they first made Zombieland. So they have them all back is quite an accomplishment. And
I hold nothing against Abigail Breslin for taking a break.
I don't have anything either, but she just hasn't really done much.
To that point, right? Like, Abigail Breslin was a child actor who worked throughout her childhood. Same thing with Dakota Fanning.
Yeah.
And I really respect both of those actors for just taking some time off. I think that's super valid, and I'm glad they did that. I think that that's just a very healthy thing to do, because being a child actor is very hard, and it can cause all kinds of nightmarish circumstances for people that we hold dear. So, and I really like how this cast is going to be expanded. Bill Murray is supposed to be coming back. But then we're also going to see Rosario Dawson, Zoe Deutsch, Luke Wilson, Thomas Middleditch, Dan Aykroyd. I mean, it's going to be an interesting movie. I don't know if it's going to be a good movie. I don't know if it's going to have anything about it that justifies going back into this well. I know they've been talking about this sequel for so long. It hurts. I wish it had been like some kind of like TV series, but if you're going to do the movie again, they're on the right track, right? They did do.
Oh, no. The Amazon thing, if you forget.
I did forget about that. But Ruben Fleischer is back as director too. So those are the things that give me hope. It's a dark horse in the sense that I just don't know if audiences are going to care, but I think that it could be better than dull. I'll go that far. And then, yeah.
This is one that I'm really hoping for the best with this because I do quite enjoy that first Zombieland movie, but I don't know. All signs point to it being probably pretty bad. Just the trailer didn't really seem that good. The writers, I mean, I like Deadpool, but some of their other stuff has been kind of hit and miss. And Reuben Fletcher, I mean, he's like the definition of a one-hit wonder at this point. All the other, I think 3 other movies that he's done after Zombieland have been maybe not financial flops, but certainly quality wise, they don't quite match up to what he did with his first movie. So this is the one that I think for me, as far as Reuben Fletcher, it's going to be a make or break. Like if he can't recapture that magic they had with the first movie, I think I'm going to count myself out as far as what Reuben Fletcher does next. But yeah, I want it to be good. And I can see why you put it as a dark horse, but I don't know. I'm not sold yet based on what I've seen.
I want to push back a little bit on Reuben Fleischer. I think that I like 30 minutes or less a lot better than most people. Yeah, I think it's average, but in a nice way. Like it's not trying to be better than it is, that kind of thing. And it's no Pineapple Express, but I liked it. Gangster Squad, agreed. Not a great film. He was a producer on 2 movies I like, Two Night Stand and Unicorn Store. As you know, I'm a big fan of Unicorn Store. Now, he did direct Venom. Venom is a film I do not like at all, but people really like that film. So like, I don't think it's fair to call him a one-hit wonder. I think that maybe critically, but financially, no. I mean, he's proven with Venom that he still has something with audiences. And my main pushback though is that in TV, he has been killing it. He's directed some great episodes of Superstore, which is one of my favorite sitcoms, and Santa Clarita Diet, which I'm not a big fan of, but I know like, he's done a few episodes of that as an executive producer, but that's a show that I've heard that he helped sort of really bring into its own. So just saying, I have a little bit more hope, mainly for those reasons.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go in open-minded for Zombieland 2. That was a double tap. Is that the subtitle?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. I want it to be good. And I will say, even though the trailer doesn't work for me, that last gag at the end of the trailer is one that inspires hope. Like if it's mostly that, and less like everything that came in the 2 minutes before, I could see this one being pretty fun. And obviously, you know, they've spent a decade hopefully cooking up ideas for what this movie could be. So hopefully that means that they have some good stuff that they're not spoiling in the trailers. But as of now, I'm very much on the fence with this movie so far.
Right. I haven't seen the trailer. I've avoided it because I don't want to get hurt. So prematurely.
If you saw that trailer, maybe you wouldn't put it as a dark horse.
That's probably from what I've heard, that's probably the case, but I'm holding out hope regardless. Speaking of hopeless romance, my last dark horse is Last Christmas, and Last Christmas comes out November 8th. It's not a dark horse in the sense that I think that it's going to be financially successful. I think that people are going to watch this film. I think people probably will like it. I think it's a dark horse in the sense that I'm wondering, are critics going to like it? I think audiences are going to like it, but this is a new Paul Feig film.
Which guarantees it as a dark horse.
I think so, right? I think that. Yeah. Here's another director who I have been so hit or miss with. I love A Simple Favor. Yeah. I love Bridesmaids. I can't stand Spy, much to some people's chagrin, and I can't stand Ghostbusters. So,
see, I'm pretty much the exact opposite. With I mean, I thought A Simple Favor was fine. I really think what made that work was Blake Lively's performance and the costumes and the sets. If it wasn't for those 3 factors, I think the film would have been a lot more patchy than it already was. I would say his best is probably Spy, which I know you push back on a lot, but I'd say that's like the one film of his I would actually say is like outright good and not mixed to positive.
And I hated the movie. Heat. Oh yeah, The Heat. Nobody likes The Heat.
No. Some people definitely like The Heat. I've had some conversations about that film. That is a terrible film.
Were they heated conversations?
More so than I think you use that definition. I'd say.
All right.
But yeah, I thought Ghostbusters was fine. I definitely think it was as a term you used last week, kind of much ado about nothing in a way. Like it was this big, there's a lot of pushback. It was a lot of heated conversations for what I felt was ultimately a kind of average film. And unfortunately average at that, because I wanted it to succeed more than it ultimately did. But I think I prefer when he kind of scales back. I think he's a really good writer when he actually writes. I think that's the reason why I like Spy the most, is because he actually wrote that film. And I guess he wrote a little bit of Ghostbusters too. So I know he didn't write this one though. It was Emma Thompson, right?
Emma Thompson. Well, she co-wrote the story with her husband, Greg Wise. She co-wrote the screenplay with Briony Kimmings, who is better known in the British like live theater sort of scene. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
and that gives me
this is a Christmas movie. If you couldn't tell, it stars Emilia Clarke, Henry Golding, Michelle Yeoh, and Emma Thompson. And it's kind of like a romantic holiday comedy from Universal. And I look at all of those pieces and I see success. I see, okay, that's what people are going to watch that. People are going to go to the theaters around Christmas time or Thanksgiving, we should say. And they're probably going to watch this. And does the movie look all that good? Honestly, I think this is going to be one of the ones that critics are like, it's acceptably bad. Or like, it's got all the tropes and everything like that. I think it's going to probably do box office similar to maybe like The Hustle or like one of those other sort of like, that's not really a romantic film, but just kind of like a regular sort of like comedy with maybe like rom-com level sort of box office. It's not going to be a huge hit probably, but I want to see it. I love the song Last Christmas. That's all this is really about. That's one of my favorite Christmas songs. So I have a feeling you'll disagree.
It's based on a song?
Yeah.
It's based on a song?
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. And the very next day,
that's it.
You gave
Anything
it away.
Positive I said about the film, I'm rescinding. If it's based on a Christmas song,
not only is it based on it's based on a song by Wham. So I'm guessing that changes everything, right? Or wait, no.
It doesn't really.
Not Wham. It's George Michael, isn't it? It is. It's George Michael.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Nothing against George Michael, but I'm not crazy about a movie that's based on a song. But we'll see. I don't know. I do like Emma Thompson. That's what's giving me hope here.
All right. That's Last Christmas, November 8th. Films we're morbidly curious about. And boy, we're taking our sweet time with this episode.
This is gonna be a conversation piece because these are some picks.
Morbidly curious indeed. One of these films you have on your list I've seen already. So I'm more curious about like what you're gonna think of it. But first, there's Downton Abbey. I have as a film I'm morbidly curious about. September 20th.
Did you watch that show?
I never watched it. That's why I'm morbidly curious.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't watched it either.
I'm gonna see it, and I just want to see it without any context. I'm ready. I'm ready to watch this Downton Abbey thing and just see how absurd I interpret it. Another film that comes out is The Death of Dick Long. That's a film that I saw a few months ago. I like the film the more I've thought about it. I've come around a little bit. I think I was kind of hard on it before. And
oh yeah, that listener definitely thought so.
That's true. We had a listener who was very annoyed. I didn't like the film as much.
Yeah.
But, it happens. And I definitely, part of the reason I came around on it was because I think the appreciation I started to feel was like, there is like a dark message behind this movie that the thing I criticize it for is like, it takes forever to get to the point, I guess.
Sure.
But you're looking forward to it. And I guess there's some marketing material out for it now. And what's your morbid curiosity? Is it because of the filmmaker in question here?
That's exactly it, yeah. And I believe it's an A24 film as well, right? Is that correct?
Not sure.
I thought it was A24.
Oh, it is.
If it's not, yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's one half of the Daniels, and Daniels made not only my favorite movie of 2016, but probably one of my favorite movies of this decade, which is Swiss Army Man. So whatever even one half of them are doing next is instantly going to guarantee my interest and hopefully my enthusiasm. I enjoyed the trailer. I dig what it's looking like so far, and I'm hoping I like the movie maybe a little more than you did. I don't expect it to be another Swiss Army Man for what you and many other people have said thus far. But it seems like an intriguing premise. I usually give A24 movies the benefit of the doubt. So yeah, that's why I'd say it's definitely one that I'm curious about. Morbidly, I guess, is only fitting given the death in the title.
Yeah, it's Daniel Scheinert, who directed this. He also stars in it, sort of. But you'll see what I mean there. And
is he Dick Long?
He's Dick Long, yeah. There you go. So there's where that sort of comes in. Yeah, critics really like this film so far. Like out of 16 reviews, 81% like it. So take that as you will. There was something about like the runtime. I hope like the version of it that comes out is a little bit more, is edited a little bit better. That could solve so many problems with it because I like what the film's going for, and I like kind of what it's about, like overall. But wow, it just, yeah, it takes a minute to get to its point. But that's Death of Dick Long. Comes out September 27th. I think we're gonna have a great conversation about that film in the near future.
Yeah. expect many emails.
I hope so.
Whatever our conversation is. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's another film coming out called Pain and Glory. Have you heard a lot about this one? It's October 4th.
No. Who's behind this movie?
Right, so this is a Spanish film, and one of the reasons it caught my attention a bit is because it stars Antonio Banderas, and this one...
is this who I think it is behind it? Yeah, I won't give away, but I believe I know who you're talking about now.
So Pedro Almodovar...
oh, yeah.
The film actually, it premiered at Cannes Film Festival, and Banderas won the award for Best Actor, which has me very interested. It also won for Best Soundtrack. Alberto Iglesias won that. And I don't know much about this film. I've sort of avoided the premise and the plot, but those details have me very interested. I'm excited to see a Spanish film, honestly. This is Sony, I should say, and they're the ones who are going to be distributing it. And it already came out in Spain. People really liked it there. And it's made I think it made over $20 million in Spain. Penelope Cruz is also in this film. And Antonio Banderas, he is the lead actor in my favorite movie of all time, The Mask of Zorro. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of Antonio. I'm going to support him no matter what he does. I watched Life itself because he was in it. If that tells you a little bit, at least. He was fantastic in that movie. I don't care what anybody says. He has a great monologue.
So that was good. No, I thought he was good. That's why I said that, I think, in my review.
You did.
He's like the one part of the movie where it's like, wait, when did this become good? And then he leaves. And it's like, wow.
He has a speech about olive oil that I just was riveted. So anyway, Pain and Glory. I've heard it's better than life itself. And so I definitely really want to see it. Good. Other than that, though, I don't know if you had any
I'm a big fan of I'm a big fan of Pedro Almodovar as a filmmaker. I really enjoy his stuff. I love the look of his movies, especially, even his weaker stuff. The sets always look fantastic, and the color that he puts in his movies, they're always visually striking at the very least. And I don't think he's been on a hot streak. I remember he had I'm So Excited, which was one of the rare misfires for him. And then his last movie was pretty good, but it wasn't quite as memorable. I forget. I'm blanking on the title of it.
You're talking about Julieta?
I did see it. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was pretty good. I liked it, but it wasn't an A film for him. It was kind of more like B territory. But I'm excited for this. I forgot it was coming out, and that's a nice surprise. So I'll look forward to that. I want to see that.
I'm ashamed to say, Will, that I've been aware of Almodovar for a long time. Mm-hmm. I've never seen one of his films, and he has a lot of films.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you should check them out.
Yeah, and
they're very good. Usually,
I've been around his films for the longest time. I know my mother is a big fan of a few of his films, and I don't know. I never saw Matador. I never saw Bad Education. The Skin I Live In. I don't know. I've just never, for whatever reason, I think Talk to Her. That's one that I've always just that was a film that we had in my house, and I just never watched it. Yeah. So I feel very bad.
You didn't see Volver?
I didn't see Volver either.
That's one of his bigger ones.
Yeah, that's the 2006 one.
You might have seen that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With Penelope Cruz.
Yeah, so I think that's a film that I've seen the poster for. Because that's right. A Cannes Film Festival.
Well, she was nominated, I think, for.
She was.
I think she was nominated for Best Actress.
Yeah. She was the first Spanish woman ever nominated to the Oscars. So that's a fun little fact there.
And she won 2 years later, right?
Oh, did she really?
Didn't she win for Vicky Cristina Barcelona?
Was that 2 years later?
2008, right?
Huh. Oh, I guess you're right. For some reason, I thought the movie came out. Oh no, Midnight in Paris is the one that came out in 2011. I had my wires crossed there. But anyway, that is Pain and Glory. I think that could be a terrific film to check out early October. All right.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Another film we have here, October 15th. Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. This is one of your morbidly curious films. What are we looking at here?
Oh man, going from Pedro Almodovar to Kevin Smith. My apologies to Kevin Smith, because I like him as a person. He seems like a nice guy, and I usually hope for the best with him. But this is a film that the trailer, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. It looks very bad. This movie, I don't have a lot of confidence in. The reason I'm morbidly curious is just because it's his return to the View Askew universe, and I think there's some kind of comfort I get from that, the idea that he's kind of returning to this 90s phase of his life, which could seem detrimental and regressive, but I feel like there's a chance for him to kind of have a sense of closure that he didn't quite find with Clerks 3, because for reasons outside of his control, he wasn't able to make that film, which I was pretty disappointed because that was actually one of the ones of his that I was looking forward to. But this is a chance, it seems, to kind of say goodbye to View Askewverse. I've heard that the movie ties up some relationships with other movies, including Dogma, Chasing Amy, and obviously Clerks. So I'm just curious about that. Like, I'm just curious. It also is a film that he's making after his major heart attack, and it sounds like there's like a kind of finality to this film because I think he's kind of been health cautious of late, and it seems like that inspired the film as he was rewriting it and ultimately directing it. So for those reasons, I think just as a portrait of Kevin Smith in 2019, kind of looking back while also looking forward, I'm curious to see what the film is going to be. Like I said, don't imagine it's going to be very good, but just based on the number of cameos they got and everyone he has involved with the film, as far as the cast is concerned, I can't help but be curious.
Yeah, I don't know much, if at all, about this film, except that the tagline is "Weed, love to tell you a story." That is, of course, weed spelled W-E-E-D.
You don't explain it. Don't.
Yeah, well, it's an audio format, so I got to make sure people. Yeah.
Just move on.
Jay and Silent Bob reboot. Yeah, I honestly, I don't know if I'm actually going to get to this one. But again, that comes out October 15th. And then that's it for all of the September and October films. The last two films we have here are both November films. This next one is Terminator Dark Fate. This is your final morbidly curious about film. And I'm actually a little surprised this hit this one instead of Dark Horse. I was considering this one for my Dark Horse. But why? How did it? How did it end up here?
The main reason why I consider it a morbidly curious film as opposed to Dark Horse is that I just get the sneaking sense that it's probably going to be bad. The trailers haven't been very good. And what I'm seeing from the trailer is another indication that, kind of similar to all the Terminator sequels outside of T2, it just seems like they're kind of going in the direction that the sequels to Terminator shouldn't, which is like a lot of like, big explosions and like all this kind of like unrealistic, special effects and action pieces that are very like green screen heavy and stuff like that. And I think what made the obviously, T2 had a lot of state-of-the-art special effects, but I feel like what made those first two films really work is the grounded, almost pseudo-realism of it, in the way that, like, they're very kind of, there's a good humanity to those films, in addition to the sci-fi tech that's going on. And I feel like that's something that's been lost in the other Terminator sequels, and I think that's why they haven't really been good. But this is the film, I know when the premiere footage of CinemaCon, it got like an uproarious response. Obviously, James Cameron is involved, and that inspires some confidence, as well as obviously Arnold's back, which is fun. But we have Linda Hamilton again, who I believe is her first film in the series since T2.
That's true.
So there's a lot riding. Yeah, so there's a lot riding on it. It's their fourth attempt to make T3, and
yeah, basically.
And it's like, similar to Zombieland 2, this is like my final straw, I think. Like, if they can't get this one to work, I'm done, I think. I'll probably end up seeing whatever Terminator movies they make next. Their fifth attempt at T3. But I don't know. What I'm seeing doesn't inspire confidence, and I don't see it being anything more than yet another kind of disposable Terminator movie. But in addition to the cast members I listed, it also has Mackenzie Davis, who we've talked about and celebrated many times.
One of my favorite actors on the podcast, by far.
Yeah, mine too. I think she's great. We can talk about all the films that she's done. Tully, Blade Runner 2049. I haven't seen *Halt and Catch Fire*, but I've heard it's a great show. Another AMC show. Yeah, she's done a lot of stuff. That's only like a few of the titles. I know she's also on Black Mirror in a very well celebrated episode. So yeah, I'm hoping for her, for Linda Hamilton, for James Cameron, and for the series Terminator. I want it to be good. And I didn't even mention that it's directed by Tim Miller, who is obviously the guy behind the Deadpool movie, the first one, not the sequel.
The one that I like more.
Yeah. It's the one I prefer of the two. So yeah, I'm hoping, like, for everyone involved, I think I just want it to be good. But my seeking intuition is that it's probably going to suck, unfortunately. And that would be a bummer. But, it's coming out hopefully November 1st. So we'll find out then whether it lives up to the legacy or it's yet another flop.
Yeah, you've said a lot of what I'm feeling, especially when it comes to, Tim Miller, James Cameron. There are reasons to be excited. There's some reasons to be a little nervous. David S. Goyer had a hand in this film as screenwriter. Okay. Who, sure.
And
he hasn't really written a good film, I think, since the Dark Knight films, which he didn't really write by himself. Yeah. But this is the guy who did Man of Steel and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. I know.
I like.
I know. Yeah. We have to get that out, or else you're contractually obligated, I think, to mention. But recently, I mean, Tao. Was anybody sort of interested in that film?
Was it?
Oh, well, I guess he was just a producer on Tao. But
was it?
Yeah,
Tao,
the Netflix film. See, there you go. Nobody watched it.
I don't know if
it wasn't very good.
I don't know that.
But the last film, actually, the last film that he wrote was Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, right? Mm-hmm. But then like Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance, The Unborn.
Oof, he directed that.
Yeah, and also Jumper, which I like, but
yeah, you like that Jumper.
I like Jumper.
That's your Man of Steel.
That's my Man of Steel. Yeah, there you go. Blade Trinity, he also directed. A few other things I'm forgetting, but this is a tough one. He's written good films, but not lately.
Didn't Billy Ray also have a hand in writing this film? And we talked about him. He's made a lot of great films. He also wrote Overlord last year, and a couple other films like Breach and State of Play, and a lot of really solid films that I'm blanking on right now.
Captain Phillips,
I don't know,
and then another film we're going to talk about, Gemini Man, in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Hunger Games, I think. Oh, and Volcano, one of my favorite disaster films from the 90s. Oh, jeez, that is a delightfully bad film, though. But yeah.
The pushback on that, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, Terminator Dark Fate is it's another question mark. I have no idea how. I'm morbidly curious about it. It's a dark horse. It's all the things.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. It's such a question mark again. I guess you could say like the Joker, but this one I just feel like it has less chances, I think, of ending up good. But again, like just because everyone involved, well, not everyone, but a lot of the people involved are people I like and support and want to support. I want it to be good, but I just can't help but worry that it's probably going to be bad. But hopefully it's a surprise. And it's an amazing movie that lives up to T1, T2.
Agreed. So that's Terminator Dark Fate. Comes out November 1st. And then the last film we have that I'm morbidly curious about, and some people will be surprised about this. I think people are genuinely really looking forward to this film, and I think for good reasons. Knives Out. Knives Out is the newest film from Rian Johnson, who did, of course, his last film, of course, was The Last Jedi. And before that, he did Looper. He also did Brick, which is a film I haven't seen, but I've heard it's very good. Yeah. So this movie, though, I think people are really looking forward to it. I've seen the trailer. I don't get it. Like,
oh, you don't like the trailer either?
It's not that I don't like it. It's just, it has no effect on me. It just feels like Murder on the Orient Express again. Like,
that's how I felt too. I was afraid I was the only person that felt that way.
Oh boy, we've been spending too much time together because people are going nuts about this movie, and I think because they really like Chris Evans' whole shtick in it. I guess
it's a great cast. Yeah,
it is. I guess, but there's also Daniel Craig doing the Logan Lucky thing, where he doesn't look Southern. So why is he talking so American? It just doesn't. I hate to be. This probably sounds kind of insensitive, but it's just he looks so British. Like, I don't know if that's going to come across the wrong way, but he just doesn't look like the voice.
You don't think that'll play into the film though?
I don't know. Maybe. Is it
like it seems like he's like the outsider.
Yeah,
though,
he is.
Right?
He's the the Perot character or whatever, the detective who has to solve the whole thing.
So that's why I thought. Yeah, that's why I excuse it. I think I'm more forgiving of that than Chris Evans, who I don't know. It just seems like he's kind of playing the kind of swarmy guys that he kind of got out of after he became Captain America.
Yeah.
I feel like. Like, I felt like he kind of, like, moved past these type of parts.
I have no issue with him going back to that. Well, I have no issue with this cast in general. I mean, it's a fantastic cast. Christopher Plummer, Lakeith Stanfield, Michael Shannon, Toni Collette, Jamie Lee Curtis, Ana de Armas. Mm-hmm. Really great performers. Catherine Langford. Mm-hmm. I'm not interested in a whodunit murder mystery. I mean, even with Murder in the Orient Express, I mean, I think I almost fell asleep during that movie. I did fall asleep during that movie. There's something about this gimmick that I don't... You like that movie, Murder in the Orient Express?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
For some reason, I thought... You're talking about the more recent...
I'm sorry, I need to explain myself. I like the film.
Did we talk about the film on Cinemaholics?
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We talked about the same episode as Lady Bird with special guest Kristen Lopez.
You're right. Okay, now I remember. I just remember not being... I don't like that movie.
It's not an amazing movie. No, I just thought it was fun. Sometimes I like to have fun.
Okay, sometimes, not all the time. But
That's a quote from Red Letter Media.
That's Knives Out. I don't know. It could be really good. I'm just not interested yet, and I hope that changes. I want to like it. I like Ryan Johnson, so I don't have much else to say beyond
Yeah.
that.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think for me, I'm excited because I don't know if many people agree with this or not, but I feel like Ryan Johnson gets better with each film. Like I thought Brothers Bloom was an improvement over Brick. Subsequently, I thought Looper was an improvement over Brothers Bloom, and then I obviously really enjoyed Last Jedi. So if the leapfrog trend continues, this will be his best and brightest film, in my view. But yeah, the trailer hasn't won me over as much as I hoped. I'm just hoping again that they maybe are saving some of the good stuff for the film, and maybe it's just Lionsgate is not really promoting the film as strong as possible. But you can't ignore the cast, you can't ignore how talented Ryan Johnson is, especially because he got to use his clout from Last Jedi, much to some people's dismay, I suppose, to make this this passion project of his. So I'm hoping that comes out and becomes something pretty great. But yeah, similar to you, I'm not wowed yet, unfortunately.
All right. Those are the films we're morbidly curious about. Also, some films that we put down here. Well, again, let's just try to get through this because we were totally out of time. But these are films that.
Yeah. How do we spend more time with just the two of us than we did when it's like 3 or 4 of us?
I have no idea. It's fantastic. But yeah, so these are the films that might surprise us, box office wise or critically. And we're really just sort of rounding out some films we haven't even mentioned yet. But there's coming out September 9th, The Two Popes. This is the Jonathan Pryce and Anthony Hopkins film that is, I believe, coming out on Netflix. Yeah. I think this is going to be also premiering in one of the festivals pretty soon. And you have on September 20th, Between Two Ferns, the movie. This is the Zach Galifianakis thing?
Yes. It's going to be Scott Aukerman's directorial debut as well. I'm a big fan of Between Two Ferns. I've enjoyed them even before they were popular, dating back to the Michael Cera and Conan and Natalie Portman episodes. So I've been following the web series for a long time, and I don't know how it's going to work in long form as a movie, but I want it to be a great surprise. It's on Netflix, so it won't cost me anything to watch it. So that's why I have it in this category.
Okay. That works out because I picked a Netflix movie, you picked a Netflix movie. And yeah, I guess it could, if it's like Mike Wallace is Here, but Between Two Ferns, I think that'd be amazing. But,
that'd be fun. I think it's actually going to be like a narrative though, so I don't know how it's going to work out.
You have a film here. I don't know much about Judy. This comes out September 27th. And you think this will surprise us?
Yeah, it's a trailer that every time I see in theaters, I'm like, this is interesting. I don't exactly know where I'm going to land on it. It's a Judy Garland biopic with Renee Zellweger. It looks visually very stunning. Like the cinematography and the period details look very great. But there's a lot of like hammy, clunky stuff in the trailer that it seems kind of TV movie-ish. Like they have the shot of her walking in slow motion while pill bottles fall behind her, and it's like, not really being subtle there.
Yeah.
What was that?
I was just agreeing with you.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I have a surprise because I could see this being, an unsuspecting return to form for Renee Zellweger and potentially a solid Oscar contender. But I don't know. I have a feeling this is just going to be one of those Oscar buzzy movies that just kind of falls out the cracks and people forget about it after a year.
Yeah, this is weirdly, I haven't seen this trailer. Like it hasn't shown up anywhere, but it's on my radar. Jessie Buckley is in it, who I am just the biggest fan of these days.
Oh yeah.
Can't wait to see it.
Wild Rose?
Wild Rose, yeah. And I'm I don't know much about the director Rupert Gold here, but I have heard good things about the book this is based on, End of the Rainbow by Peter Quilter. Okay. So it's a story that I want told. I'm not sure Renee Zellweger is the person to tell the story, but I hope I'm wrong about that. So I hope that she is. That's Judy. Comes out September 27th, and then we have on October 11th, we have Gemini Man. This is your last film that might surprise us, box office wise or critically. Gemini Man is the Will Smith film with Clive Owen and
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, I honestly I had this as a dark horse and I took it off because you were going to talk about it. But Gemini Man, not a film that I think is probably going to be good, but I still want to watch it for some reason.
I want to support it because, for one, it's a new Ang Lee film, who, while I don't think his last film, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, was what it could have been. It's still Ang Lee, and I think
it's another Billy.
I'm not a big fan of this digital.
It's another Billy Ray film. Just want to keep that in.
Oh yeah, that's true. Not a big fan of like this. I don't know if it's like a 6FP camera or something. Whatever type of camera they use to film, it makes it look way cheaper than I have to assume it actually is. So I'm not a big fan of that. But as far as the technology to make Will Smith look 20 years younger, it looks great. Like, I mean, I would say even though The Irishman looks like a way better film overall, I would say the de-aging technology for Gemini Man looks a lot stronger in that regard. And I mean, it's a original, big budget, high concept movie. And I get excited whenever I see a sci-fi original film not based on IP. That's always worth celebrating, and you always hope those are good. But yeah, the trailers just aren't doing it for me. I'm hoping it's good, but I'm worried that it's going to be another Ong Lee flop. But
Yeah.
we'll see. That's why I have it as a hopeful surprise.
Yeah, same page. I think we're on the same page with that. I know that I wish, some part of me wishes we could have had maybe this not be like a fall release. Like, this to me feels like a spring release or like a very, very early summer. But yeah, based on what you said, yeah, the trailers haven't
Well, it's
grabbed
Ong
me.
Lee.
And yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And David Benioff co-wrote this, and I'm still a little sore from how all the Game of Thrones stuff turned out, so I'm not looking forward to that discourse.
Okay.
That's going to be fun.
Sure.
Yeah. That's Gemini Man, comes out October 11th. Could surprise us. I have a feeling it could make some money. Maybe not be the biggest hit, but be a mid-size hit.
I mean, yeah, it's Will Smith. He made Bright a hit,
Yeah.
and he made Aladdin a hit.
That's true.
So maybe.
Yeah, twice in 1 year would be great for him. All right, coming out October 15th.
Well, Bright wasn't this year.
I was talking about Aladdin. So I'm saying
I see,
Gemini
yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Oh, I get you.
So October 15th, you alluded to this earlier, but Charlie's Angels. This is the one where Kristen Stewart and Naomi Scott, speaking of Aladdin, are in this film. And I don't remember much about the original Charlie's Angels, not the show, but the movie with like Drew Barrymore and all them, and Cameron Diaz.
Oh, the McGee ones?
Yeah, the McGee films.
They're very male gazy. That's the main thing I remember.
Yeah.
Is that there's a lot of shots of women scantily clad and stuff like that. That's the main thing I remember from the films.
I can't say, looking at this film, the trailer that came out, I can't say that it looks like the best film. I have a feeling it's not going to have a lot of legs at the box office, but I do think it might surprise us. A, because Elizabeth Banks is directing and producing and writing the film.
Yeah.
So she has a pretty strong hand in this entire film. She's also stars in it. As I mentioned, Kristen Stewart, Naomi Scott, but then also I think the third person is the one who I wonder if she's going to be the breakout hit. This is a British actress named Ella Balinska, who I don't know. I've probably seen her in other things, but if so, I'm not sure.
This is her introduction, I think. I think it's her introduction.
To film?
I think, yeah. I think she's mostly done like British TV shows, but I'm not 100%
Yeah, I'm
sure.
not sure either. But yeah, if she has been in some other films, I'm not aware of them. But she just, in this trailer, somehow she is like making me far more curious and interested than Kristen Stewart, who I think is one of our best actresses. So I'm very interested in this one. I'm not sure about Patrick Stewart as Charlie. There's something about that just makes me think, no.
You think it'll be better than Bill Murray though?
I'm not going to answer that question. I don't know if I'm going to. Noah Centineo is also in this film. Always good to see him. Sam Claflin. I need to see him in a film to sort of like cleanse my palate of his performance in Nightingale. Not that it's bad, but because I'm still scarred from it. And Jaimon Hansu.
Sure, that makes sense.
Always good to see him. So I don't know. This is.
Oh, see that?
Yeah, he's in the film. So look,
he's in a lot of things. Though.
He plays. He plays one of the Bosleys. There's multiple Bosleys.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Because isn't Elizabeth Banks one of the Bosleys, right?
She is. She's Susan Bosley, I think, right? And I think,
I don't know.
I think Jaimon Hansu is one of the other ones, and then Patrick Stewart is supposed to be the Bosley, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, to me, I'm glad that they have a woman filmmaker behind this, because, like I said, I think the male gazy thing in the last movies was kind of off-putting, especially nowadays, and I think it was the right choice to make this a very women-driven film. But Elizabeth Banks, I just don't think she's proven as a filmmaker. Like, she made Pitch Perfect 2, which is just, in my opinion, that was a terrible movie, even worse than the first one. And then she also did a segment in Movie 43.
Hold
which
on.
is pretty bad.
Hold on. The first Pitch Perfect is a good movie. It just is. It's good.
The first one or the second one?
The first Pitch Perfect. It's good.
I'll let you have the first one. The second one's bad.
You said even worse than the first. Come on.
Well, do you disagree that it is worse than the first movie?
It's just the phrasing. It's not that it's not as good. That's what I would say.
Okay. Sure, fair enough. I don't like either of them, but I think Pitch Perfect 2 is just an outright bad film. I don't think it's well made, and that's why I'm concerned for Charlie's Angels, but I really like the lead cast, and I like the supporting characters as well, so I'm hoping for it. But yeah, it's a good choice for the hopeful surprise option.
That brings us to Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, our final film.
More Maleficent than ever.
This is an October 18th film, and again, this is a big question mark, just because this is the first live action remake to have a sequel. Can't really count Alice Through the Looking Glass because it wasn't really a remake. Like Alice in Wonderland was already a sequel to the animated film, more or less, right?
Yeah.
I have a feeling, though, this one is probably going to be in that same level in terms of box office. I hope it's better, but the first Maleficent is a movie I like. I really like that soundtrack. I like the take on the character. I think Angelina Jolie just carries the entire thing, makes it work just because she is just the charisma rises above the script of that movie. I'll put it that way. Even though that film goes in some directions that are just out there, a little hard to stomach. It's not a film that I ever want to see again. I've only seen it once. That said, Mistress of Evil, this is from Joaquin Ronning. You may remember he did a film called Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. He co-directed it with Espen Sandberg. And
it's just the one guy?
Yeah, he's not co-directing this one.
Okay. These they made the movie Kon-Tiki, right?
That's the Kon-Tiki. That was like a good film, right? Because it won a bunch of awards.
Yeah, it was right. It was up for, I think, best foreign film. And it was like a movie about somebody on a boat.
It's about the Kon-Tiki expedition, but yeah,
but it involved a lot of sea stuff. So I think that's why Disney was like, they'd be good for pirates.
Right. He also worked on Marco Polo, though, which for some reason I thought that's what you were referring to.
The show.
The show.
No.
Did a couple of episodes, and that's a show that
Not the underwater game.
Yeah. But no, Marco Polo is a show that I actually really liked. I only saw the first season, but it was actually really solid. It was actually my introduction to Benedict Wong, I think. But Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, Angelina Jolie's producer. I think it's got a lot of screenwriters attached to here. Linda Wolverton, Noah Harpster, Micah Fitzerman Blue. And a lot of the original cast is returning. Elle Fanning, awesome. Chiwetel Ejiofor, great. Ed Skrein, Juno Temple, Leslie Manville, Michelle Pfeiffer. It's a big cast. My thing is the story going to get people to come out? Are people really going to want to see more Maleficent? Isn't the story of this over?
Probably not.
Like, I don't get what the hook is. Like, why should we watch this movie? We already have the first Maleficent. I don't get why we're supposed to care about a sequel.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think my main concern with the first movie is that it just felt kind of confused. I felt like it was like, I get what it was trying to do as far as like trying to be like a big female empowerment film from what I can recall. I don't remember it too well, but it was also like acknowledging that the character was evil and like she's a villain, and the title of this movie is like Mistress of Evil, but she's like the protagonist. And it's like an interesting concept.
Yeah, I think she's evil again.
Right. So it's like, I don't know. It just seems, I don't know, just the movies themselves, like from a thematic standpoint, they seem just kind of tonally kind of confused, which I think is probably their biggest detriment. But I agree with you that I think probably the main reason they've been made is because there's no denying that Angelina Jolie is a great choice for Maleficent. And I think, she just looks the part. I think she really has a lot of fun in it. It's great to see her acting because she's been mostly directing the past couple years. So, it's nice to see her on screen again. But at the same time, we also have Eternals, I think she's in the Marvel.
Comes out next fall.
Coming out. So, right. So if this doesn't work out, there's Eternals, I guess. So, I guess, I don't know. I'm not really excited by the prospect of more, live action remake sequels. So I don't know if I'm really rooting for this movie to be a hit, but it's not like I really want it to be a flop. I'm just kind of letting it bide its time and seeing what happens.
Right. This film, it's being made because, well, Maleficent made $758 million at the box office in 2014. And this one is poised to make maybe half that, 2/3 that. Who knows? I just don't see it being a bigger hit. And I'm especially a little concerned because that first film, the screenplay had one screenwriter. That was Linda Wolverton. Now it has 3. And I have concerns. I'll put it that way. About the production in general and so forth.
Is the original screenwriter coming back for this film, or is it 3 totally different screenwriters?
She's one of the screenwriters coming back, yeah. Linda Wolverton is. And she did the story. Okay. So, again, We really just don't know. But that is another film that I think will probably surprise us with how much money it doesn't make. I think people are really banking on this one to be a big hit. And I think we're going to be surprised in sort of a negative way, to be honest.
It'll probably be the Nutcracker this year.
Maybe. Probably a little bit better.
The fourth quarter, maybe. But yeah, I just mean like the fourth quarter Disney flop. Like the one they put a lot of money in, and they end up surprised that there's no real interest in it just because it's a Disney film.
Yeah, especially because the budget of this is probably going to be exorbitantly high. I remember the first Maleficent was like a success, but barely, because like
looks expensive.
It was very expensive. It cost like, oh man, I think like $200 million or something like that. It was really bad. But regardless,
the first one?
The first one, yeah. This one, I don't know.
Yeah, because they like reshot half of it, I think.
Yeah, they did.
Like,
and
it was a kind of messy production.
And Angelina Jolie, she's not cheap. She demands a high salary, and she deserves it. So
yeah, I was going to say, she deserves it. She's a legit star.
All right. Well, those are the films that we think might surprise us. And then some films that I've already seen. Just want to point out, Don't Let Go. This is the Chiwetel Ejiofor film with Storm Reed.
I won't.
It was originally called Relive. And I wrote a review for it already, and they apparently changed this one up. I've actually gotten emails from the PR people about it who are like, it's different now. So I don't want to pass any judgment because apparently they fixed some of the mistakes that this film was. I really did not care for this one. It was the film that I cared for the least at Sundance. And
I was going to say, yeah, it was the one you were like, this is like the bad film of Sundance. Right.
And so I think they probably heard a lot of the same complaints and made some tweaks, hopefully for the better. One of my favorite films of the year comes out soon, The Report. I think that's going to be hitting a few festivals.
Oh, yeah, this looks good.
Yeah, Adam Driver, Annette Bening. This one, can't wait for you to see that as well. I could see us doing a whole episode about it. And then I already mentioned The Death of Dick Long. And recently I mentioned Honey Boy, the Shia LaBeouf film. I talked about that a week or two ago.
Almost on my list.
Yeah, great film.
Yeah, almost on my list.
Another film that I really like this year that I'm looking forward to a conversation about. Just such a personal film for Shia LaBeouf. Probably a perfect double feature with Peanut Butter Falcon, I would say. So, assuming that film.
Yeah, I mean, Well, I mean, I think, don't they have like an arrest scene with Lucas Hedges? That's like a recreation of the arrest they had.
Yeah. I think you mentioned that last week. Yeah. So,
yeah, they're connected. I wonder if there's going to be some. Is there some connections to Peanut Butter Falcon in the movie since you've seen it?
Well, I haven't seen Peanut Butter Falcon. That's what I'm saying.
Why there's no references to it or anything like that?
I have to watch the movie.
Okay,
I have no clue. I know what you're saying because you're talking about how that film is supposed to like Peanut Butter Falcon was like he basically wrote that before Honey Boy, right? Or like in response to some of that stuff.
Well, he had the public drunken incident. Yeah. He kind of came back the week after, and the star of Peanut Butter Falcon, his co-star, I mean Zach, like he was very much a straight shooter. Like, why are you doing this? And they had like a heart to heart. And that's, from what I can tell, what inspired him to finally go into rehab. And when he was in rehab, he wrote Honey Boy.
Right. Okay. So that's the story. Again, 2 weeks in a row. So listeners better get it at this point, especially me.
We'll get it a third time when we review Honey Boy.
That's right. All right. There are a bunch of films we did not mention, we didn't get to. There's The King, which actually just comes out like next week, September 2nd. This is a Timothée Chalamet film. It's going to be dropping on Netflix. It's about Henry V. I haven't seen the trailer. I think some people are interested in it. I'm definitely going to watch it, but it's not high up on my radar.
I like the director.
And then also we have on September 13th, 2 films, Manos, which I believe is a Neon film, and The Sound of Silence, which is a Sundance film. Say again?
Manos, Hand of Fate?
Manos, Hand of Fate. It's just called Manos.
I think of Manos.
Oh, yeah, not Manos.
Hands of Fate. Hands.
Yeah, not Mono-y Mono.
Hands of Fate.
Yeah.
Oh, man. One of the most notoriously bad films ever made.
I've never seen it, no.
It's something.
There's also Rambo Last Blood. That's September 20th. I'm not sure if I don't know. Rambo? Are you in a Rambo still? I'm pretty over it.
Am I personally?
The last Rambo was a good finisher, I thought.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess he felt emboldened with the Creed movies to wrap up his other characters. Maybe. I find it very hilarious that he chose to play a gritty version of Old Town Road in the trailer, which is weird. It provides me no shortage of amusement.
A week later, we have Abominable, which is a new DreamWorks animated film. We also mentioned that last week. It looks pretty bad. Yeah, it looks like a mix of like 3 Pixar movies, like they're trying to do.
And How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah. Oh, so much How to Train Your Dragon vibes. And then those are all the September films. Some of the ones we didn't get to that are October include Jexy, which is like do you think this looks pretty bad? It's CBS Films. dude from Workaholics.
Yeah, you see this trailer?
I haven't seen the trailer. No, I've been avoiding trailers
it's
lately.
It's a bad trailer. Huh. This is a terrible trailer. It's the guys that wrote and directed Bad Moms.
Yeah, and a bunch of other stuff that's not good.
Well, they wrote the first Hangover, which is like their one good script, and they've been kind of coasting on that for now 10 years.
Well, there's also we also have another October film on October 25th, Black and Blue. This is the one, I forget the actress, but yeah, she's like a cop, and there's like corrupt cops in LA. I just saw the trailer for the first time.
Naomi Harris?
Yes, thank you. She's from Moonlight.
Among other things.
Yeah, but that's definitely like, I think where I first like really came to see her talent was in Moonlight. But yeah, Black and Blue looks kind of interesting. I want to see it. I think the trailer is very makes it definitely look worth a while. It has Frank Grillo, I think, from Captain America. Okay,
yeah, in the Purge movies. Yeah. This is the trailer I haven't seen, so I don't know.
So the one trailer I've seen that you haven't. I just for some reason people have been like, the new trailer's out, and I've just been like, yeah, I'll see it if it's in the theater. I just been a little bit less proactive, I guess.
Yeah, that's healthier, and I think probably better in the long run.
Yeah, I'm sick of going to the movies and being like, I've seen this trailer. I kind of like being surprised now. It's kind of nice. Or just missing it completely. That's fine. There's also Motherless Brooklyn. This is the new film directed by Edward Norton. He hasn't directed a film in a while. I think this is only his second one.
This the first one was Keeping the Faith.
Yeah, not Playing with Fire. Playing with Fire is November 8th.
Yeah.
John Cena and Keegan-Michael Key and a bunch of other actors. That's like the firefighter family film. You said there weren't enough family films, so there you go. Well, you got Abominable and you got Playing with Fire.
That's going to be the top 10 breaker that Disney's worried about.
Two other films hitting limited release November 1st. Harriet. This is the Harriet Tubman biopic starring Cynthia Erivo, which I have a feeling will probably be a big Oscar contender. There's also Waves, which is a new A24 film. I don't know much about it, but the cast is intriguing. And
is this the one for the director of It Comes at Night?
Yes. Trey Edward Schultz.
Yeah. It's a musical. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Dark Waters, which kind of looks like not like the most interesting film in the world. It comes out November 22nd. Mark Ruffalo is in it, and like Anne Hathaway, and it's an interesting cast, but like I read the synopsis real quick and I was like, I guess that's kind of interesting. I don't know. I wasn't thoroughly impressed.
2 water movies for Anne Hathaway.
That's right.
Beginning and ending the year.
Did you hear anything about the Lodge? This one premiered at Sundance. I actually was supposed to see it, and I missed my my screening.
Yeah, I heard a lot of great buzz from Sundance. I saw a trailer, dug it, and then after that, I've been hearing kind of more mixed and negative things. So I'm a little concerned about that.
As it happens,
but the filmmakers
always happens that way.
Yeah. That's always how it goes. But or usually how it goes. I don't want to assume every movie it's like that, but it's the directors of Goodbye Mommy, right?
I believe so. I hope I'm not confusing it with Wounds, though, because that was the other one from Sundance.
No, Wounds was a different director. That was the one that did Under the Shadows, I think.
Okay, then you should be right.
Yeah, I believe I'm getting the 2 correct. But this one, it looks interesting. I'm digging the vibe of it, but the more negative responses are kind of making me worried now.
Yeah, I still want to see it though, and I'm super bummed that I missed it. It was one of the midnight screenings, and I was too tired. How embarrassing is that? I was too tired. I needed a nap. Jeez.
Too tired to go to the lodge.
On November 5th, we're getting The Good Liar. It's another one we didn't really talk about.
I don't even know what that is.
I just looked at it because I had never heard of it, and I already forgot everything about it. So apologies. All these movies are starting to blend together. I'm starting to get tired. There's Ford versus Ferrari, November 15th. This is the other like kind of Oscar one. And I just...
James Mangold.
It's not that I'm not excited. It's not a film... Obviously, it's Christian Bale. It's James Mangold. It's Matt Damon. It's Jon Bernthal. I mean, this look has
your favorite.
It has the makings of, I know, right? It has the makings of a film that will be talked about by a lot of people, and it's going to be probably very interesting. But I'm patient. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it when it comes out. I'm not losing my mind over it, I guess.
Yeah, it looks fine. I almost had it in my I think my curious file or whatever the one was, the surprise file, and then I was like, I'm not expecting that much of a surprise either way. It's probably going to be good, but not a box office hit. Maybe get like 2 Oscar noms.
Yeah,
that's a day.
It's also how I feel about 21 Bridges. This is November 22nd. Chadwick Boseman's, I guess it's the only film I think we've seen him in since Black Panther. That
at
I've
least
seen.
in a lead role.
Yeah.
I don't know if he did some supporting work. Well, I mean, obviously he was in Infinity War.
Yeah, but as far as I know,
other than that, yeah.
But that's basically it. There are plenty of other films we didn't get to, believe it or not. I think one that you almost wanted to talk about was Queen and Slim. Just barely didn't
looks
make
good.
the cut. Greener Grass, Arctic Dogs. There's a Nicolas Cage movie called The Last Full Measure.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh. Huh.
Where's My Roy Cohn? A documentary from Sundance I missed but wanted to see.
I feel like there's another one we missed that's pretty prominent, but I don't know what it is, so
I'm sure there's
find out later.
Yeah, the listeners will let us know. This has been a supersized preview. I don't know how it happened. But that just tells you how interesting
the Goldfinch.
Oh, yes, the Goldfinch. We didn't talk about that one because I think you originally had it in one of your categories and you took it out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Goldfinch.
Yeah, I'm curious about it. It's the director of Brooklyn.
That's right. Brooklyn is a movie I really like, and Ansel Elgort is an actor I really like. He was in my favorite film of 2017. I know, but I love Baby Driver more than most people. And The Goldfinch, based on a book that's really long, and a movie that is probably going to cut a lot out. So I don't know if book fans are going to be happy with it, but it does look like the sort of film that could have some Oscar conversation, best adapted screenplay, that sort of thing, if not more awards considered. Also, Hustlers. I was sad you didn't bring that one up.
I almost had it on my list. I think I put it on and took it off. I'm curious about this film. It's the, what's her name? The director of Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
I forgot her name too.
Which I think that's a movie you like, right?
Yeah, that's good. Saw it once, won't see it again.
I saw it twice. I enjoyed it both times.
Yeah, I'm interested in Hustlers mainly because of Jennifer Lopez, Constance Wu, Cardi B, and Lizzo. That those are just four names. When you see them on the poster,
is it Keke
perfect.
Palmer in it too?
Is Keke Palmer in it? It's just this day just keeps getting better and better. I honestly, I maybe I know Adam McKay.
It's a big cast.
Yeah, Adam McKay produced it, so just putting that out there.
Okay. Yeah. It's based on a true story. It's like a big New York Times article, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about it. I want to see it.
But yeah, so we covered a lot. We really went pretty far on this. Is there anything left? Is there anything else before we finish this out?
I feel like there was a Netflix film of some note that I'm forgetting about, and I don't know. I don't think there's anything else that I'm remembering off the top of my head. So I'm sure I'll forget, or I'll remember it later, and then I'll kick myself. But for now, it seems about everything.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of Cinemaholics. Probably our longest yet.
I just remembered. It's Marriage Story.
Oh, what is that?
The Noah Baumbach movie with Adam Driver.
Oh, it has a name now.
And it's Noah Baumbach and Scarlett Johansson. It's like an autobiographical look at his marriage to Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Oh, is that not a December film?
Is it December? I thought it was November.
Well, I was thinking that it was coming out on the same time as Little Women, but that just might be my mistake.
Let me look up the release date while you finish up the episode.
Okay, well, yeah, so that'll do it for this week's episode of Cinemaholics. And probably our longest episode yet, but we definitely covered a lot. And it was good.
It's theatrically it's coming out November 6th.
Okay.
Streaming wise, it's coming out December 6th. So kind of in the middle there.
Okay, all right. But hey, that still counts. I'm surprised because I looked at the list of Netflix original films. Sometimes they just don't make it on there, or sometimes because of the way it works, like what counts as original isn't. You know what I mean? So that probably is why I missed that one.
Do you hear who's doing the score for Marriage Story?
No.
Randy Newman.
Oh, wow.
I believe it's the first score he's going to do outside of a Pixar movie.
Huh. Okay. I am heavily excited.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah. I mean, I really liked the last Noah Baumbach film, Meyerowitz Stories. That was his last one, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's going to be like a spiritual sequel to Squid and the Whale. So
oh, wow. Yeah. Man, that's 2005, right? So 15 years later, or 14.
2004, I believe. But yeah.
Huh.
Or no, maybe it is 2005. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Anyway,
that will do it for this week's episode of Cinemaholics. We'll end on a Noah Baumbach note. Thank you as always for listening, and especially if you made it this far. And if you like us, don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher. We'll see you all next week to talk about It Chapter 2 and whatever else happens in pop culture. You never know. I'm going to be on vacation, so maybe I'll be able to catch something out in the middle part of the country is where I'll be. But
maybe you'll find Bernadette.
Yeah. If you want to follow Will or myself on Twitter or find us on Facebook and all of our Cinemaholics social media, that's all in the show notes. And links to everything we talked about in terms of supporting the show and emailing us, it's all in the show notes as well. And that'll do it for us this week. From the Internet California, I am John Negroni.
And from the Internet Pennsylvania, I'm Wash.
See you next time.